Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the statewide illegal dumping conference. This is our second annual conference, and I'm very, very pleased. I'm Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley, and I'm convening this conference with the illegal dumping statewide task force, as well as other entities that are helping us bring this conference to you today. And I'm just very, very pleased because this is an issue that needs to be addressed comprehensively by all of us throughout the state. I want to thank Aaron Armstrong from my office, Jasmine Howard from my office, for really quarterbacking and putting the conference together with the assistance of Austin Bruckner and also Ashley Strasberg from my office as well. So let's get underway. But before I get too far, let me pass the information to the interpreter so she can explain the translation.
Thank you, Supervisor Miley. I am Patty Black from International Contact, your language host for today. We have Spanish interpreters for this meeting. The Spanish participants will be listening to the interpretation on their corresponding channel. That Spanish interpretation channel has already been created. The interpretation is once again going to be live, simultaneous, with two professional simultaneous interpreters. One moment, please, while I give the instructions in Spanish to those participants that speak Spanish. Gracias por asistir a esta reunión para escuchar la presentación en español. Por favor, haga clic en la figura del mundito en la barra de tareas que aparece abajo en su pantalla. Y después haga clic en Interpretation y seleccione Español, ES o Spanish. Para escuchar solamente el idioma interpretado, haga clic en Silenciar audio original. Si está usando un teléfono inteligente, haga clic en la parte donde hay tres puntitos. Seleccione Interpretación y después Español. Después habrá una parte en la reunión donde podrá hacer comentarios o preguntas. Simplemente haga clic en la parte de abajo de su pantalla donde dice Q y A para hacer su pregunta en español. Muchas gracias. We ask all panelists, anybody who's speaking in English, please to speak slowly so that the interpreters can keep up with you. Especially if you're reading off a slide or a script, a lot of times we tend to speak a little bit faster in English, but our interpreters have requested that you please keep up the pace so that they can keep up with you. This concludes the multi-language instructions. Thank you very much. Now I will pass it back to Supervisor Miley.
Well, thank you so very much. And we're very pleased that we can offer the translation services for the conference. Because it's a virtual conference, we've got participants coming to us today from all over the state, and even some participants are coming to us from throughout the country. And we're just really, really pleased to have everyone's participation. We have about 800 or more people who have registered for the statewide illegal dumping conference. Today, we'll be focusing in on education. Tomorrow will be eradication. And then on Thursday will be enforcement. So I'm really very, very pleased that there's such a wide attendance because illegal dumping knows no boundaries. It affects us in urban communities, suburban communities, as well as rural communities. It has no boundaries, and it really doesn't have to occur. And so that's what we're all about, trying to prevent illegal dumping. I'm very, very pleased that for this year's statewide illegal dumping conference, our second annual conference, we have Waste Management as our title sponsor. WM, that's how they're known these days. WM, they are our title sponsor. I'm just very, very pleased to have Waste Management. And they'll be participating in different parts of the conference over the next 3 days as well. Additionally, I want to provide some information about illegal dumping. And I've already said, you know, it knows no boundaries and we all have a role to play. So waste management, you know, they operate in 48 states, as well as the District of Columbia and also Canada and Puerto Rico. We have additional sponsors at our education level. The Mattress Recycling Council, MRC, as they are known, is a nonprofit organization that operates recycling programs for mattresses in states that enforce mattress recycling: California, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. You may know them as Bye Bye Mattress. The Mattress Recycling Council, they have been a participant with the statewide illegal dumping task force for a number of years, and we're very pleased to have the Mattress Recycling Council as one of our sponsors. Another sponsor is the East Bay Municipal Utilities District. We're very pleased to have them as an education sponsor. The mission of the East Bay Utilities District is to manage natural resources, to provide reliable, high-quality water and wastewater services for the East Bay, and to preserve and protect the environment for future generations. So we're very thankful that East Bay MUD is one of our education sponsors. We have additional sponsors as well. At the eradication level, we have the Orloma Sanitary District. Their mission is to provide the highest value in wastewater, solid waste, and recycling services to customers and to protect the San Francisco Bay. I'm very, very thankful that the Orloma Sanitary District has become one of our sponsors at the eradication level. Then at the enforcement level, we have a few sponsors. We have Georgia Lane Townhomes and Pepper Tree Village Apartments. And we're very thankful that Tom Silva, the principal of both of those entities, decided to be an enforcement level sponsor. Then we have a number of community sponsors. And one of our community sponsors is Jefferson County Department of Public Works in Louisville, Kentucky. And you'll be hearing from them during the conference as well. The Illegal Dumping Technical Advisory Committee, IDTAC, they are another sponsor. And the IDTAC, they are a participant in the statewide illegal dumping task force. And we're just very, very thankful to have IDTAC as part of our efforts. Forrester is another community sponsor. Additional community sponsors, the California Product Stewardship Council, who I've worked with for many, many years. They helped me pass the ordinance here in Alameda County dealing with medication disposal. You'll be hearing from them throughout the conference as well. Furniture Cycle, they're another community sponsor. And then the National Stewardship Action Council, Heidi Sanborn. You know, I've worked with Heidi and very thankful to have her continue to work with us. And you'll be hearing from Heidi during the conference as well. Additional community sponsors, Paint Care, they are a sponsor. The Castro Valley Sanitary District, they're a community sponsor. And then the Product Stewardship Institute, they are another community sponsor, and you'll be hearing from the Product Stewardship Institute as well. You know, these sponsors are just really important because we couldn't put on this conference without the support and the help of sponsors. You know, even though this is a virtual conference, there are still expenses associated with putting on a virtual conference. And we're just very pleased to have these sponsors stepping forward to help us with the conference. It's truly a team effort. Now, let me just go over a few other housekeeping matters just to make sure everybody is dialed into that. How to choose language preferences. Click interpretation, choose your language. Select mute original audio. You cannot listen to language interpretation if you dial in. It's only available on Zoom. How to ask questions. Use the QA feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. Chat is available to discuss presentations with fellow participants. However, questions in the chat may not be answered. So use the QA feature for all questions. What if you miss a presentation? Well, the conference is being recorded and will be made public and available to all of you publicly. Links will be sent to all conference participants. Additionally, you can join the conference on social media. Join the conference on any of the platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Use a hashtag that appears on the screen here, IDCON22, IDCON22, to keep conversations connected on the conference. Finally, under housekeeping, if you should have any questions, don't hesitate to contact Aaron Armstrong at acgov.org. And that appears on the screen too, Aaron Armstrong at acgov.org. And you can also call my office at 510-272-6694. That number appears on the screen, 510-272-6694. You know, I'm here in the Information Technology Department office on Madison in downtown Oakland. That's where we are staging the conference from. So I've got a real good team of information technology staff, my staff and others working to ensure that we're able to pull this conference off successfully virtually. So I just want to put a shout out once again to everybody. And I also want to mention my chief of staff, Tony Henninger, who's also worked to help this conference become a reality. I see that we have about almost 350 people joining in, so that's really great. So for today, it's our second annual virtual conference, statewide conference, and the focus today is on education, tomorrow, eradication, and the third day is enforcement. You know, we have some exciting things taking place over the next 3 days. Today, basically, will be our education block. And we have a number of speakers. And one of the most exciting pieces of today is the cost of illegal dumping. I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to hear about. And as I've mentioned, the conference is all about the 3 E's: education, eradication, and enforcement. Education is the first approach to the 3 E's in terms of addressing illegal dumping. Educating the community about the proper trash disposal helps to prevent illegal dumping. Educating the community about the cost of illegal dumping, just not financially, but the cost to us mentally, psychologically, physically, I think is important. Having a cleaner and more sustainable world is extremely important. So educating folks about the fact that illegal dumping does cost us in many, many ways is extremely important. And I can't say enough about education, but even with education, we still know that we need to have the other 2 E's, eradication and enforcement, and I'll focus on those over the next 2 days. So moving into today, we will start the conference off with a good friend, Assemblyperson Rebecca Bauer-Kahan, RBK. You know, last year, she provided funding for illegal dumping. She was able to get some funding through the state legislature, of which was provided for enforcement that we were able to use in Contra Costa County and Alameda County with our Sheriff's Department and DA department to work on enforcement. And I know she's carrying legislation this year. And so she'll be speaking to that. We want to talk today about the impacts of illegal dumping. We will have an introduction from the Illegal Dumping Technical Advisory Committee. out of Cal Recycle that's been doing a lot of work. We'll hear from LA County, our SPOT program that educates teens. We'll hear from Furniture Cycle, sorry. Furniture waste is in the circular economy. And, we do find a lot of furniture that's illegally dumped out there. There'll be a break. Pay attention, there will be a poll during the break as well. Proper disposal of propane cylinders. We'll hear about that as well and how that's a problem in terms of illegal dumping. Then there'll be a panel discussion with the Mattress Recycling Council, because they funded 3 projects in the cities of Berkeley, Palmdale, and San Jose to address illegal dumping of mattresses. MRC will present the background of each project, their findings, and recommended solutions. There's really no reason why mattresses should be illegally dumped. There's just no reason for that. And then we will conclude today's conference with a keynote keynote remarks from Alameda County Sheriff Greg Ahern, because the Sheriff's Department here in Alameda County has been working very well with us to try to deal with illegal dumping. So now I'd like to go into our keynote speaker, who's going to open the conference up for us today. And as I said, it's Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Kahan. She was elected in 2018 to serve the 16th Assembly District, which includes the communities of Dublin, Lafayette, Livermore, Orinda, Pleasanton, San Ramon, Walnut Creek, Danville, Alamo, and Moraga. RBK is an accomplished attorney, environmental advocate, community volunteer, law professor, and most importantly, a mother and wife. A Bay Area native, she has dedicated her career and personal time to improving our community, solving complex problems, protecting civil rights, and fighting to ensure everyone has the opportunity to succeed. I'd like to turn the stage over to our illustrious Assembly member, Rebecca Bauer-Kahan.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Miley. And I want to just start by thanking you. I mean, you mentioned my first year in the legislature, I carried legislation and got funding for a program to stem illegal dumping. And it was you who were one of the people who brought that idea to me and really talked about the importance of this issue. And so I want to thank you for being such a strong advocate for meaningful policies, for change, for bringing us all together to have a conversation about action to address this issue throughout our region and our state and our country. I'm seeing people in the chat from all over the country. So I'm glad we're all here together to discuss this issue that's really important to each and every one of our communities. I want to thank all of you for being here and all the corporate sponsors for enabling this important work. Coming together at the state and local level and beyond is really critical to making sure we're doing and finding solutions that work for each and every one of our communities. So the learning that happens through these 2 days, I know will be very helpful, and I look forward to putting some of it into practice here in California. I want to talk about some of the things that are the private-public partnerships that really are so impactful in helping to solve this issue. The dedication of extended producer responsibility programs like the mattress recycling programs that you're going to hear about today, and the local nonprofit programs like Forrester that are forging these cross-sector partnerships to address this issue is what provides the resources and really impacts our community. So I just wanted to highlight that because it really is the work that each of you are doing at the government, in the nonprofit sector, and in the private sector to stem this issue that is really going to be what works. And I'm happy to be a partner in all of that, but I really want to acknowledge the work that each and every one of you are doing. So with that, illegal dumping and the dumping of both toxic materials, but also, as we heard about, trash, furniture, appliances, is out of control. We see it on our roadways, we see it in our communities, and in our open spaces all over the state. And it's not just unsightly. It is really putting the health of our communities and the environment at risk. And I think that's an important piece of all of this, is that it is not only, a community issue about beautifying our communities, it really is an issue when it comes to keeping our environment clean. And this is an environmental justice issue because it disproportionately affects our disadvantaged communities, impacting their sense of well-being of their children and residents who live in neighborhoods where this is rampant. And I think that's something Supervisor Miley does an incredible job of talking about, is how important this is to give everyone the right to live in a community free of garbage, clean streets, and in dignity. And I see it in my own community. And so, we need to continue to work on this. And I think the focus of today, the 3 E's, education, enforcement, and eradication, are really critical to how we're going to succeed and get there. So I want to talk a little bit about each of those topics. And I'll start with enforcement, because that's the work that I've been doing here in Sacramento, primarily in my legislation. As I said, I've seen illegal dumping in my own communities. I share the Tri-Valley with Supervisor Miley, which is sort of a further out part of the East Bay in Alameda County. And we have some rural roads out there where this has been a real problem for our communities. But it's also true in Contra Costa County, which I also represent. And, when talking to the public sector stakeholders about this, one of the things that we learned was that the illegal dumping investigations are time consuming and extremely difficult to charge. Often, even if a suspect in a license plate is captured on video, and that isn't always the case, the suspect is commonly not the registered owner of the associated vehicles, and investigations require a significant amount of follow-up to develop sufficient evidence to file a criminal complaint or a citation. So in my first year in office in 2019, I secured $1 million from the California state budget for a pilot program that funded 2 full-time law enforcement officers, one in Alameda County and one in Contra Costa County, to work together to build networks so that we can investigate and stop illegal dumping. We also put into this work ensuring that we were learning from it, making sure they're reporting back to the state and we can learn from that pilot program. And one of the lessons we learned is that even when individuals are caught, the existing punishments are not enough of a deterrent to stop the cycle of illegal dumping. So this legislative session, I've introduced new legislation that will provide stiffer penalties and more teeth in state law against those caught illegally dumping. So my current bill, AB 2374, increases fines for individuals who employ more than 10 full-time employees and gives judges the discretion to require the convicted individual to pay for the removal of their illegal dumping. And this is a really critical part of the legislation, is that even if we catch people, we need to ensure that it isn't our counties, our local communities paying to clean up this illegal dumping, but instead it is the wrongdoer. Moreover, it requires the courts to notify the applicable licensing or permitting entity when a person holds a license or permit related to the removal of garbage and waste, so that they can record and post the offense on the license or permit holder's public profile on the internet website of the entity. So one of the things we want to ensure is that if one is hiring a waste hauler, they're able to know if that waste hauler, you hire a licensed waste hauler, you think your goods are being disposed of in a responsible way, but it turns out they're not. You'll have a way to know that, which we really think is so important. By upping the fines and providing tools for the courts to publicly hold the violators accountable for committing the acts, we're hoping to create strong disincentives that will prevent people from dumping waste and raise awareness about the issues that it continues to perpetuate in our community. I want to be clear that this goes beyond simply increasing fines. What we're trying to do is build a community of understanding and of best practices and permanently dissuade bad actors, especially those that are being paid to properly dispose of waste. But that's just a piece of it. That's enforcement. And the next piece is education. And we need this as an important building block of what we're trying to do. And I know you're going to talk about this today in the conference. But it's essential that we inform our various agencies, organizations, and community members about the existing laws and resources that are out there to properly dispose of waste. For example, many of our communities have resources through their franchise waste hauler to dispose of bulky items. In my community, it was just Big Trash Day this week where people could put it out on their curbside and it would be properly disposed of. But community members often don't know about these resources. We can prevent illegal dumping through proactive engagement with local governments and local community organizations by providing multi-channel, culturally appropriate and relevant educational materials. And this is something that we as the state of California are constantly trying to make sure counties have the resources to do, which is provide language appropriate materials so everybody understands it despite the language that they speak and understand. This strategy can help provide feedback to policymakers to ensure the communities have access to resources at the right time and the right place. Communities can use proactive measures such as bulky item, hazardous waste, and e-waste events to create additional channels for disposal free of charge to community members. The events are very effective in raising awareness about the ongoing resources that are available. I think each and every one of us have seen this. When there's an easy, hazardous waste disposal in our community, people see the signs, they learn about it, and they become more informed about proper disposal. But we also need to rely on our industry partners to help educate the public and public agencies. Industry groups such as Mattress Recycling Council invest collected fees into educating the public about illegal mattress dumping through public service announcements. They also provide outreach material to local governments and collect data about illegally dumped mattresses so that the government can respond to the issue in a data-driven way. The more we know, the better informed our policies can be. This extended producer responsibility model is a great way to tackle proper disposal of durable waste. It also creates a real incentive for getting materials back into the recycling stream so that it can be reused and repurposed, which is good for the environment, as we all know. And I'm excited to hear that Cal Recycle will be on today to help talk about this, because it's such important work that we're doing here, is making sure that our recycling is actually being recycled and especially not dumped on our streets. And finally, you'll be talking about eradication. And I know that that's so important that we eradicate illegal dumping in our communities, because it is a cycle. Once people see it, others engage in the behavior as well. And so if we target illegal dumping hotspots, we can stem the impacts of illegal dumping in a really significant way. So we're really focused on local beautification projects and illegal dumping and litter abatement programs. So both removing the litter, but also ensuring that we're beautifying our communities. And that's why last year the governor with the legislature teamed up to provide $1 billion towards the Clean California program. We know people want clean communities and clean streets, and we're putting our money where our mouths are, and we're hoping to fund that. Part of the funds were designated to expand litter abatement efforts over a 3-year period. In 2020, Caltrans removed 267,000 cubic yards of trash. This year as a state, we've set a goal to collect 721,000 cubic yards of trash. And to date, Caltrans has collected 472,000 cubic yards of trash. So we are on target for the year, which is good news. We also allocated $296 million of funding for local grant programs and $287 million for state beautification programs. So we want some of that money to come directly to local governments who I know are on this call to help with this problem. Here in Alameda County, for example, the Alameda County District Attorney's Office received funding of $2.3 million for the Clean Streets Initiative. And I know that Supervisor Riley, I'm sure, is hard at work ensuring that that is put to good use. The Alameda County District Attorney's Office will use these funds to contract with homeless advocacy nonprofit Downtown Streets Team to provide continuous litter abatement through unhoused persons at 3 project areas, 2 in East Oakland and 1 in Hayward. Funds were also allocated to provide infrastructure such as sidewalks and planting areas along the state highways. Funds will be used to install safety measures and decorative security fencing to deter dumping in hotspots along the highway. So again, focused on beautifying and ensuring that these are areas that don't look right for dumping, but instead enjoying as you pass by. These state programs are just the beginning of what we can do together to address illegal dumping in our communities. I know that all of you are doing even more to eradicate illegal dumping in each of your communities. And again, thank you for being here to share that information and to learn from one another. And I look forward to hearing what comes out of the ideas that are shared through this conference. So I just want to close by thanking you for being a partner in this important work, and know that as you've seen my legislative trajectory from my first legislation that funded the program to the increased enforcement, we continue to watch what's going on, ensure we're moving legislation forward to better partner with each of you to make a difference. So thank you again, Supervisor Miley, for having me, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Assemblymember. If you have a few minutes, maybe I could just chat with you here so folks can hear some of the good work, because you really covered a lot, enforcement, eradication, and education. You covered the whole spectrum, and some of the topics you hit upon, we'll be going a little deeper into those over the next 3 days. With your legislation, I'm just very thankful, and I hope the state legislature and the governor have the let's say the support to enact this legislation. And I know the legislation is a first step, because you're starting with those that have 10 employees or more, right?
Yeah.
because we know there are folks who are illegally dumping that probably have fewer than 10. But the point of the matter is we have to start somewhere. And I think your legislation helps us to get on that path.
Yeah. There's been a really significant focus in the legislature about reducing fines and fees for those that are, struggling in California with huge cost of living. And so that was one of the concerns with the bill. And what we told, our partners in this work was we're really focused on in this legislation is people who are in the business of illegal dumping. And so they were, they wanted to start with more than 10, but as you point out, there are definitely people who are in the business of illegal dumping who have less than 10 employees. So we'll see how this goes, and there's always more work to be done.
Yeah, and that's why, it's iterative. We just have to keep moving forward. Because it really irks me, and actually it angers me when we see illegal dumping throughout our state in different communities. Like I said, be it urban, suburban, or rural, and like you pointed out, it's an environmental justice issue. It affects the quality of life for all of us, and it doesn't really have to occur. And so I think your legislation at least puts a marker down that we can build upon. Because I do like the fact that those that are providing this service will be able to check on whether or not they've actually properly disposed of the items they pick up. Is that correct?
Yeah. And part of what we want is, those people who are being responsible and hiring a licensed waste hauler, they're doing the right thing. They think they're having their waste disposed of properly. And when those people are illegally dumping, we want to make sure individuals have the ability to contract with those that are responsible haulers. And so we're ensuring that information will be accessible to everybody.
Yeah, because I just think it's important as consumers when we hire a company to take away our products that we want to have dumped, that they are dumped responsibly. And I know at one point when we tried to look at this across the state, nobody had any indication of how many waste haulers there were out there. And we're not talking about the franchise haulers. We're talking about the unregulated haulers. And at least this gets us moving further along the spectrum of trying to regulate this type of practice.
Yeah, but I love that you're focused on education, because I know recently I had some paint I needed to dispose of, and I went to, I live in Contra Costa County, and I went to the disposal site, and it was so easy. And I think the more people that understand what a good job the counties are doing of providing, easy access to proper disposal, the better off we'll be. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. Just wanted to chat with you briefly about this. Please, we've got your back. We're going to continue to work with you and others to address this problem, and hopefully we'll get it to a place where it's no longer a problem. I have to tell people I'm not naive enough to think we'll ever eliminate illegal dumping totally and completely, because human beings have bad behaviors, but we can do a better job of making our environment a cleaner place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Supervisor. Good to see you.
Okay, take care. Bye. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Aaron Armstrong, who will basically guide us through the day for the rest of our conference. And I'll be back with you when we get to the closing remarks.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you, Assemblymember, for such amazing remarks and really underpinning why it's so important to address illegal dumping and framing some of the really effective solutions that we'll be hearing about throughout the next 3 days. Now, as many of you are aware, this illegal dumping conference, our second annual, is themed around the 3 E's. That's education, eradication, and enforcement. And so we're going to speak very briefly today about some of those interventions and why we've chosen to theme the conference around those interventions. So this is about the 3 E's of illegal dumping, which is a best practice strategy for addressing illegal dumping. This strategy was developed through the Alameda County Illegal Dumping Pilot, or the ACID pilot, as we like to call it, which began in 2018 in Deep East Oakland and was tasked with identifying scalable and replicatable solutions to addressing illegal dumping. And that pilot is going on to this day. In fact, in 2021, just last year, it was promoted to a project, and we continue those efforts to this day. Out of that pilot, we identified the 3 E's strategy, a comprehensive approach to overcoming illegal dumping. And you can see from this graphic here a little bit about how the 3 E's strategy works. You have education, eradication, and enforcement. And each of these strategic pillars are represented in this image by a section of a bridge. You may have seen this image before, but the ultimate point is that if you take out any of these points of the bridge collapses. And so that's why it's so important that you employ all of these strategies at the same time. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. So what is education? Education is an upstream approach aimed at preventing illegal dumping. We just heard the assembly member talk a little bit about how important education is, because there are proper ways to dispose of waste. And if people don't know about it, then that is a situation that illegal dumping is much more likely to occur. And so working with community members, local businesses, and really trying to educate people about proper ways of disposal, proper ways of reporting illegal dumping can really have a preventative effect in the future. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going. Eradication, and this is one of my favorite photos of me from some of our eradication work that we've done. Eradication is removing illegal dumping quickly so that it doesn't attract more illegal dumping. I know many of you have seen those illegal dumping piles that sit and fester, and they just attract more dumping, more blight, and more litter. And that's why it's so important that we eradicate illegal dumping as soon as we see it, so that we can prevent more illegal dumping from accumulating in that area. And our last is enforcement. Enforcement is a downstream approach and a commitment to holding illegal dumpers accountable for their actions. This is very important because without enforcement, if all you're doing is providing eradication and education, all you're doing is providing a free service to illegal dumpers. You're essentially subsidizing bad behavior. And so together, each of these strategic pillars form one comprehensive strategy: education, which is your upstream preventative approach; eradication, which gets rid of the illegal dumping quickly and effectively when it happens; and enforcement, which is your downstream approach to holding people accountable for their behavior. Now, within each of these strategic pillars, there's both a proactive and a reactive way to approach it. For education, for example, a proactive way might be working with youth or doing community outreach to let people know about proper ways of disposing of illegal dumping and reporting illegal dumping. That's going to have benefits down the line in that people are less likely to dump and people are more likely to report dumping when it happens. A more reactive approach would be something like targeted outreach. For example, if you're seeing a lot of illegal dumping of household goods outside one specific multifamily unit, they may not have the right size waste bins. And so doing targeted outreach to the owners of that building, as well as the residents, about right sizing those waste bins is a much more reactive approach to education and can prevent some of that illegal dumping that you're seeing in that hotspot. Now, eradication is the exact same thing with that proactive and that reactive approach. Proactively, beautification efforts, things like planting trees, painting murals, doing micro cleaning and regular checkups in the area. So that's driving through every day, every week to just make sure that things are clean and not building up. More reactive strategy is to remove illegal dumping when it happens, abating graffiti when you see it, towing abandoned cars, and so on. With enforcement, it's the same thing. There's proactive and reactive approaches. Proactive approaches usually involve publicizing of enforcement events, whether that enforcement will be happening or publicizing enforcement results and convictions when you get them, doing things like sting operations or regular patrol checks through illegal dumping hotspots. All of that is proactive work that can be done within the enforcement column. Reactive is much more about investigating illegal dumping leads. It's looking through an illegal dump to try and find identifying indicia, something with an address, a phone number, a receipt that you might be able to do an investigation and follow up on. Prioritizing leads and responding appropriately, and then ultimately charging cases. So as we look at each of these strategic elements, remember that they can be applied both proactively and reactively. And we'll learn about all of this throughout the next 3 days. So what were the results of the pilot that we did in 2018 that continues to go today? Ultimately, we engaged 6 communities to come together and address illegal dumping. We've adopted over 2 miles of streets, and we've built a broad coalition of public sector partners, the city, the county, the sheriff's department, the district attorney, with local businesses on the ground, local nonprofits, community groups and community members, and faith groups as well. Because we know illegal dumping knows no bounds, and we all have a role to play. So when we all come together, we're able to be much more effective than we could if we were just doing this on our own. We've held dozens and dozens of cleanups throughout the years, and overall we've removed over 400 tons of illegal dumping from the streets of Oakland. You can see here, this is one alley where we removed over 40 tons of illegal dumping in one alley in one day. This is exactly what we say when illegal dumping begats more illegal dumping. This was allowed to grow and to fester, and no one would notice if you dumped one more truckload of garbage here. It really wouldn't have made a big difference. But when it's nice and clean, you really do notice, and it makes a big difference. We planted over 150 trees along a mile-long stretch of road. We pulled together hundreds of volunteers for our cleanup and tree planting events. And you can see the difference here in just how the street looks, using that crime prevention through environmental design to really change the built environment to a way that is less conducive to illegal dumping and makes it easier to pick it up when it does happen. We've towed over 150 abandoned vehicles. We piloted and were successful with a camera-based enforcement strategy, and through that have issued over 100 citations for illegal dumping. Often with those citations, as we move through the process and we come to the end, we're asking people who have been identified as dumpers to come back and do community service in the area that they dumped. And so they'll partner with our local agencies, our local nonprofits in the area that we're working with, and they'll actually go out and they'll be cleaning up the streets in the same area that they dumped. And we find that to be incredibly effective. We also identified 6 strategies that can be replicated and scaled. There are enforcing existing laws. Obviously, we need, we're not completely done with the where we are with our legislation, and we'll learn more about that tomorrow during our legislative section. But there are many laws on the books that are just simply going unenforced. And it's really about prioritizing the enforcement of those laws. Utilizing camera-based enforcement strategies is something that can scale up at a much more reasonable cost than in-person patrols, which can be very expensive. And we found that these were much more effective at addressing illegal dumping than trying to catch somebody in the act in person. You want to reduce barriers to eradication. One of our most successful partnerships came by connecting the Oakland Public Works Department with some of our local for-profit businesses on the ground. Those businesses were already picking up illegal dumping outside of their business. It just made sense for them. It keeps their business clean, it keeps their customers happy, but ultimately then they were having to go and pay to get rid of that material at the dump. So not only were they putting in their own time, their energy, their effort to pick up the dump, then they had to put up the cash to take that to the dump and dispose of it properly. By creating this public-private partnership, we were able to provide these businesses with free dumpsters that they could use exclusively for illegally dumped material in their area. And then Oakland Public Works comes by and will pick those up. So you really do want to embrace cross-sector partnerships because this is a win-win. This lowers the barrier for eradication for our for-profit partners, allowing more businesses to get involved at a lower cost and clean up those neighborhoods. And it also allows the Public Works Department to be much more effective. No longer are they having to go out and remove illegal dumping from 2 miles of streets. They can go to a few key locations and pick up those dumpsters, and it's just much more effective. It's an absolute win-win. Now, ultimately, sustaining this strategy is key to its success. This isn't something that you can do one time and you're done and the problem is solved. But if you sustain it, you're able to make a real difference. And what you see is long-term shifts in the quality of those streets, in the decrease in the amount of illegal dumping. And we've seen that the longer we've sustained these efforts. And the last strategy is crime prevention through environmental design. You saw with the trees that we planted, and that has had a significant effect on the amount of illegal dumping that we see. And when we do see it, it's a lot easier to clean up because it's no longer buried in 6 feet of weeds. It's right next to a nicely mulched area with a tree. And you can really identify it quickly, pick it up quickly, and clean up the area quickly. It's things like putting in lights to make sure that an area is brightly lit so that it's no longer a place that feels safe to do illegal dumping. And so that can be a very effective strategy for addressing it as well. Ultimately, this all comes back to the 3 E's: education, eradication, and enforcement, which deals with it on an upstream all the way to a downstream intervention. Now, we had sent the acid pilot's final report to all of the attendees. You should have received that. So if you'd like to review that in greater detail, you have it in your email. You should have received it yesterday. But we will be learning a lot more about these 3 E's over the coming days, as each of our days are themed around one of those 3 E's. Now, today is Education Day, tomorrow is Eradication Day, and then our final day of the conference, Thursday, will be Enforcement Day. Friday, this Friday, is Earth Day, and we're very excited to have provided all of the attendees with a list of almost 20 Earth Day cleanup events that are happening throughout the state. We really are encouraging all of our attendees to practice what they learned during this conference, this Earth Day weekend, and get involved. Go out, plant a tree, clean up a neighborhood. That's what this is all about. It's about action. So thank you for that. And I do want to just mention a couple things before I invite our next speaker, Ken Houston, to join us. As a reminder, you can ask your questions using the Q&A feature down below on the screen. During the conference, all of our presenters will be having their presentation, and then they'll spend about 15 minutes after their presentation going through that Q&A feature and answering all the questions that were relevant to them. We make sure all of the questions through the Q&A feature get an answer. So if you have a question and you would like to get an answer, Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. Now, this conference is being recorded, and we will be making it all available to online after the conference, similar to last year. Last year, we created a post-conference webpage, and all of that information was put into one website where you could go and easily find which presentation you wanted to do. This is going to be the same thing this year. So if you have to leave early, if you're missing a presentation that you really wanted to see, don't worry too much. The conference is being recorded, and we will be sending that information to all of the registered attendees. Now, a note to all of our people who may be last-minute registrations. Because we're using Eventbrite, you may not be able to register for the conference once the conference has started, which was at 9 a.m. today. However, if you know somebody, if you've already registered for the conference, and you know somebody
Good morning, everyone. I heard.
Sorry, Ken, muting you. If you would like to share that conference information with your networks, you can send them that conference packet that all of you have received in your email. and they will be able to join using that same attendee link. Additionally, the Eventbrite page does remain available. It has all the information on there on how to join, but you may just not be able to register. So a quick note on that. The last thing I'm going to register today is that we are on social media. So you can use the hashtag right here, IDCon22. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, so you can watch it there. And so please, if you would like to engage with us on social media, use the hashtag IDCon and we will, IDCon22, and we will see you there. So I'd like to now welcome our first speaker of the conference, Mr. Ken Houston, who will be speaking to us about the local impacts of illegal dumping. Ken Houston is a lifelong community advocate and a third-generation Oaklander with 30 years of experience in the construction industry. He's the founder of the Beautification Council, a community-based nonprofit organization that addresses public health and safety conditions that plague underserved communities. The Beautification Council's best practices also deter blight. They were recognized in 2015 United States Mayor's Conference, and thereafter the Beautification Council received grants to address physical and visual cues of deterioration that create these horrendous conditions. Ken, I'd like to welcome you to the second annual statewide conference on illegal dumping. Hey, Ken.
Good morning. Good morning. I was saying good morning to the people that are on the streets. We're on the streets. We're live. I heard the supervisor said it's virtual. Supervisor, we're out here live on the ground. I'd like to thank Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan for all the work she did. It really made a huge impact on the pilot that we did on G Street and Railroad. So I'd like to thank everyone. I'm honored. We're honored to open up on the education piece of this illegal dumping task force. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce you to my team. On the ground team, I have Taz right here. He's one of our main supervisors on the ground and makes things happen. This is our operation manager, Heather Imke, and Maria Ramirez, special ops. And this is Chino Hans, that's on the ground every day. So let me take a walk with me real quick. We're on the ground here with illegal dumping live on the streets of Oakland. Many people think, and it happens all the time, many people think that illegal dumping only hurts, come on over here, watch this traffic, hurts the flatlands. But it hurts everyone. It's a crime against our community. And this is a special education piece I like to share. And it's about stormwater pollution prevention plan. When and I'm about to share something with you. All this trash right here is actually right now blocking a storm drain. And show you down here, when it rains, and you can still see the water, it goes into the storm drain. It filters through this illegal dumping and this trash that goes into the bay. So I like to share this video with you. Aaron, can you share the video that we put together, and I'll finish soon as that's over. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's go down the street.
This is the education part that I've learned. I've learned that most of this right here, the protection guard that guards the storm drain, that if there was trash over here, it would be going into this drain and going into the bay, which would cause bad stuff. Like over here, let me show you. Look, no dumping drains to the bay. What I've learned about this illegal dumping is that all the illegal dumping that goes into the storm drains lead into the bay. This is what I've learned. Thank you for letting me share my experience on how illegal dumping is a crime against our community, how it hurts the flatlands to the highlands, how it hurts the children and the nature of this earth. Thank you so much for letting me share this information. My name is Grace.
Am I unmuted?
You're good to go, Ken.
So I like to share this with everyone. I speak to individuals from the hills to the flatlands, and just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you, your family, your friends. How many people go to the beaches within the bay? Your children play in the water, you walk with your loved one, and let your feet get in the water while all these pathogens are coming into the bay from the storm drains. So what we do now is we have a few projects. We have one with the city. We follow directly behind Oakland Public Works under a HIMSS project, homeless encampment, micro cleaning and sanitization, where we use hydrogen peroxide, CDC approved, to kill the pathogens. But what we added to our scope of work through the city of Oakland was a process called micro swept, where we actually, within the illegal dumping areas, we put Caltrans approved sand, gravel bags, felt, and the combo screen. So this is what we have implemented in to address this crime that me and the supervisor always talked about, a crime against our community. Not just one community, not just the flatlands. And some people think just because they don't see it, it doesn't affect you. This is a crime against the whole community. We have a project with the city of Oakland, a project with Alameda County, and now we're working on a project, Clean California, to implement the process of micro cleaning that we did, and we started with the supervisor, Nate Miley, and thank you so much for supporting us through this. Now it's picked up steam, and we're rolling to protect our environment, to protect our community. I want to introduce myself. My name is Ken Houston. I'm the director of the Beautification Council, and I'm honored. We are honored to be a part of this second annual illegal dumping conference. And I'm signing out, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Ken, for that really important look at the local impacts of illegal dumping, that it's not just an issue impacting urban communities or suburban communities, also impacts rural communities as well, showing why it's so important to address for our wastewater and our youth as well. So we really do appreciate that. Just a reminder to all of our attendees today, use that Q&A feature down below and ask some of those questions. We already have a bunch of those questions coming in, and we are working with all of our presenters to make sure that we get answers to you. I'd now like to move us on to our next presentation, which is an introduction to the Illegal Dumping Technical Advisory Committee, or IDTAC, which is a project of CalRecycle. And in order to do this, I'd like to welcome to the illegal dumping stage, Larry Sweetzer, who specializes in trying to bridge the gap between California's strict regulatory requirements and the realities of solid waste and household hazardous waste programs for over 30 years. He has been assisting 25 member rural counties, Environmental Services Joint Powers Authority since 2000. And Larry has been a member of the statewide illegal dumping technical advisory committee since 2004. And he's been the chair of that committee since 2017. Larry, I'd like to welcome you to the illegal dumping stage.
Thank you, Erin. Apparently my video is off here, but my slides should be seen. And thank you all, and thanks Alameda County and Supervisor Miley and Erin and all your staff for putting on this wonderful conference here. And also commending all the participants for their interest in the commitment. As Supervisor Miley noted in his opening remarks, that illegal dumping affects everyone, urban and rural. It's a societal problem. It knows no boundaries. And so I'm the chair of the Illegal Dumping Technical Advisory Committee, and I'm representing, on that committee, I represent the rural counties, Environmental Services Joint Powers Authority, 25 rural counties, which is a good portion of California, which also has a lot of open area that we do see a lot of illegal dumping. And so in terms of what is the IDTech, so we're essentially a resource. We're functioning at the state level, and Erin introduced our timing. We're not a state agency, but we do work with CalRecycle. We're supported by them, their staff. And CalRecycle is this agency under Cal EPA. It's charged with regulating solid waste management, including recycling. So we provide a lot of guidance and assistance on a broad spectrum. We meet several times a year. And as this conference shows, there's a great need for disseminating information because we're all learning from each other. So we all have limited resources and time, and there's no sense in reinventing the wheel or efforts when we have such great resources out there. So last year we kicked into high gear, with our work plan. We have 30 members representing a variety of state and local agencies, associations, private waste sector, enforcement agencies, environmental groups, and public participants. And so there's a list of our membership. We do have a few vacancies. As you can see, it's quite diverse. Many of these people are working on the local level, and then we come together to share information. We did recently lose one of our members under very unfortunate circumstances. Kathy Lynch had been one of the members from the very beginning. But as you can see, we've got quite a bit diverse representation. Our newest member, Sharon Anderson, actually had been coordinating our work as she had retired from CalRecycle, and after 21 years, and now she came back to help with us, and now she retired again. So our new contact, Stephanie Becker, is listed down there, along with Kate Wilkins with CalRecycle, helping us coordinate our efforts. So in 2020, we did a work plan to outline priorities. We created our subcommittees, enforcement, outreach, strategy, and standards. And the enforcement subcommittee is working at compiling enforcement tools, laws, enforcements, regulations, codes, some case studies, evidence documentation. All of those resources are out there. And we'll hear more about that later in the conference. And we also have an outreach committee working on education and outreach resources, facilitating community involvement. Our strategy committee is working on facilitating local and regional partnerships, because it does take all of us to work together. Funding resources, program effectiveness. Our standards committee works on developing standards for cleanup levels. training needs, and other information. And we do have our next meeting, June 8th. It's open to the public. It's from 1 to 4:30, and I'll be posting a link a little bit later on that information. So, come on. So some of our past efforts that we've done, we do have a website, and I'll post that link for others to see. We also have a toolbox on that website. And similar to the 3 E's, we have focused on prevention, abatement, cleanup, and enforcement. Also on outreach and presentations. When we have our meetings, we have presentations from various groups. There's also working on a local jurisdiction survey, trying to find out more about what's going on locally, and also evidence gathering, enforcement training that we just recently held this year. Our members put together to provide information to other law enforcement on how to enforce various code sections. And it was very interesting that it does prove that enforcement can work. And we had a lot of information on that, and we'll be continuing more information along that lines with enforcement. A couple of speakers have already mentioned the unregistered haulers and refuse providers, and we've provided some guidance on that before. We also had a homeless encampment guide done some time ago. Some of our current efforts that we're looking at is we are continually updating our website to provide more information available to people. We have had a number of conversations with Caltrans on their Clean California program, helping them understand how solid waste facilities or how solid waste collection can work. And I think it's helped not only alleviate some of the illegal dumping that could have, or preventing some illegal dumping, but also on doing some recycling out of that. And we've also been working on messaging campaigns. We have a geo map, so when somebody wants to find out more about illegal dumping in an area, I'll show you a sample of that geo map, and we'll provide a link to it. You can find anywhere in the state a contact to initiate discussions to find out more about what's happening locally. We've also got some guidance on creating the partnerships, because it's critical to get everyone involved in addressing illegal dumping issues. Some of the enforcement tools. We have an illegal dumping survey that we're working on to try and quantify how much of an issue illegal dumping is. We know it's bad. We just don't know exactly how much or how much is spent statewide. So that's an effort we're trying to coordinate. As well as a listserv that we've created for people to get more information. So slow and steady progress, and we hope to continue to build upon these efforts. There's a sample of the geomap. I highlighted Alameda County, and you can see that it provides a contact information. So any jurisdiction in the state on our map will have a contact, and we're continually updating that to make sure it's current. As far as focus topics, so we decided to focus our efforts of our subcommittees on different efforts. And so we chose to vote on encampments, cameras, unlicensed haulers, and abandoned vehicles. And the winner was encampments. So we'll be brushing off our encampment guide to deal with how to deal with that and how it fits in with illegal dumping. Illegal dumping is just a small portion of what happens with encampments, but there is a need to provide information to folks out there and serve as that resource on how to address these situations, both from a legal and also an abatement standpoint. And so we'll be focusing our efforts on that issue with our subcommittees, and then working on the other issues as we finish that one. So similar to the 3 E's, we do have what we call the PACE: prevention, abatement, cleanup, and enforcement. The difference between abatement and cleanup is essentially where there's a party that's identified for the cleanup versus unidentified, and it still needs cleaning up. And there's some programs for both of these and some funding available for that. And so with that, we do have the listserv here, and I will post in the chat some links for that. There we go. And so you can subscribe to our listserv. You can also locate the geomap there. If there's any questions, we have a mailbox there, and also information on our technical advisory committee for people to serve as a resource. So look forward to hearing you, and I'll be paying attention throughout. So thank you, Aaron. I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Larry. I know that we really appreciate partnering and being a part of the ID TAC and some of the work that's happened over the last year that you highlighted. That enforcement training was just excellent and really highlighted some of the ways that coming together on a statewide level to learn from each other is so important. The toolbox that you have is just an incredible resource for any jurisdiction or community member or group that is interested in addressing illegal dumping. So we really do encourage all of the attendees to check out these amazing resources and to consider joining the Illegal Dumping Technical Advisory Council's listserv so that you can listen in to those meetings when they happen and stay informed and up to date on all of the information that's coming out of those meetings. You can also, as Larry mentioned, follow up with him directly in the chat below. He's posted some of that information to the toolbox, to the geomat, as well as an email where you can send any questions that you have. And I know Larry is also going to be available in that Q&A feature down below. So if you're interested in asking specific questions and getting an answer from Larry specifically about ID TAC or anything related to his presentation, you can use that Q&A feature down below. Thanks so much, Larry, and let's continue working together. Our next speaker is the Los Angeles County R-Spot program, and we're so excited to welcome our partners at Los Angeles County. The R-Spot program, when we heard about it, we were so excited. It's all about how do you engage teenagers in this work, which is just such an important group to be engaging. These are the future members of our society, and it's just really an incredible program. So I'd like to welcome Adriana Ornelas, who is the program manager for the Los Angeles County Public Works in its Environmental Programs Division, Residential Trash Collection Section. She helps oversee solid waste collection contracts and programs related to the prevention of illegal dumping in the unincorporated Los Angeles County area, which is huge. She also serves as the secretary of the board of the Antelope Valley Illegal Dumping Task Force, which I've had the pleasure of joining and presenting at. And we're very pleased to welcome her today to the illegal dumping stage to speak more about these fantastic programs happening down in Los Angeles County. Adriana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Adriana Ornelas, and I will be speaking on presenting the illegal dumping program and the R-Spot program for Los Angeles County. The presentation will provide an overview of our illegal dumping program, education, eradication, cleanup, forming community cleanups, and student involvement, which is the R-Spot program. SPOT acronym stands for Social Opportunities for Teens. In 2021, there were over 19,000 illegal dumping cases reported to Public Works in Metro City and rural areas. After analyzing the data, the appearance of illegal dumping is partly a result of bulky items set out throughout the week on the curbside. Our community outreach efforts consist of newsletter articles, websites, media campaigns, and social media posts. The methods for reporting illegal dumping include calling the agency's hotline, emailing us, submitting an illegal dumping case through the website, and through the Works mobile app. If an item is located outside of unincorporated Los Angeles County, the app provides other agency contact information. The three methods of preventing illegal dumping are donating unwanted items, setting out unwanted items on resident trash collection day, and scheduling a bulky item pickup with the hauler. This allows the hauler to assign staff and equipment for the removal of items. Our cleanup efforts consist of understanding that illegal dumping is a prevalent issue throughout the state and can impact public health and safety, as well as negatively impact the quality of life for our county residents. It also negatively impacts the environment, including wildlife and property value. Public Works is responsible for removing illegal dumping in the public right-of-way, which is handled primarily through waste collection contracts, as well as with assistance from our road maintenance division. Part of the waste collection contract requires waste haulers participate in 4 to 6 community cleanup events and drop-off events throughout the year. During the pandemic, those events were postponed. This year, we are looking to schedule events and will kick off the community cleanup events this Saturday, April 23rd, through the Department of Parks and Recreation R-Spot program. The R-Spot program is a free after-school program for students ages 12 through 18, providing a fun, safe, and supportive place for teens. The program began in May 2019 and takes on a strength-based approach, engaging youth from communities to explore their unique and collective experiences through various forms of recreational programs involving social interaction, such as coordinating a community cleanup event. And the Antelope Valley Illegal Dumping Task Force consists of representatives from governmental agencies. Public meetings are held every other month to discuss, enhance, and coordinate illegal dumping prevention programs in the unincorporated communities. And requests for task force funding consist of submitting a proposal, including an itemized budget. The members discuss, allow for public comment, and then vote on the agenda item. Annual funding for this program is contracted under the Lancaster Landfill Conditional Use Permit between LA County and Waste Management, which requires Waste Management to fund illegal dumping prevention programs, including but not limited to community cleanup events and landfill vouchers to assist residents with proper collection and disposal of materials. Now for some background information on community cleanups leading up to the R-Spot program and partnership with Public Works. In 2012, iHeart began a community group to address various issues, including illegal dumping and blight cleanup. The goal was to encourage the community to participate and do their part through coming together, educating, and reporting on cleanup metrics, such as over 500 tires, 5 tons of trash, and hundreds of mattresses from said event. In 2019, iHeart partnered with 40 real estate agents to clean hard-hit areas of illegal dumping, including near an elementary school and by a museum with Native Indian artifacts. These areas are in a rural community. The goal was to educate by providing community education packets and to host community cleanup events in other areas. The event was strategically scheduled around LA County Public Works tire recycling and mattress drop-off events. The real estate agents were educated on the effects of illegal dumping on rural area properties proposed for sale. And in 2021, iHeart Lake Los Angeles Community Group coordinated 11 community cleanup events between July and September, resulting in truckloads of material removed from areas known to be high illegal dumping areas in rural communities. In July, they started with 2 truckloads, and by September ended with 15 truckloads of material consisting of construction and demolition debris, yard waste, house waste, medical waste, hazardous waste such as paint and motor oil, televisions, drug manufacturing waste, full spectrum light tubes, furniture, mattresses, and tires. Coordinated community events invite participation from residents to promote awareness and involvement regarding illegal dumping within the community. Partnership with school district further invites students to participate in class projects, educating them on illegal dumping and the effects on the environment. Outreach material included educating volunteers on illegal dumping and proper disposal of unwanted items. In the rural area of Antelope Valley, which is our North County area, we have a free disposal day at the landfill twice a day. There are tire recycling and mattress drop-off events throughout the year. And there was also outreach material provided at the Parks After Dark, events located at Los Angeles County Parks. And the event metrics resulted in a need for enforcement, franchise trash collection service, and awareness of free drop-off events. In 2019, teachers from a rural area high school, Eastside High, proposed a request for task force funding to conduct a school project called BIRD, which stands for Beauty, Innovation, Respect, Discovery. Students learned about illegal dumping in their community, the effects on the environment, and the habitat of local and migrating birds. They also had another project, which was a school-wide integrated project about 6 years ago, where students fashioned their found objects into large flowers that went on display at our local Lancaster Museum of Art and History, our Poppy Festival, and showcased at the high school. They also collected illegally dumped trash to create solar lamps. Both were extremely successful in terms of bringing environmental awareness to hundreds of students, their families, and the community through local news organizations and social media. With school administration and district support, the projects were school-wide, where several teachers in a variety of subjects incorporated the recycling and environmental issues into their curriculum. Through guest speakers and research, students were made aware of the environmental impact of illegal dumping and also the benefits of recycling. The topics also included the effects of toxic waste in water, the effects on animal habitat, the legal ramifications of illegal dumping, and recycling programs in communities. The teachers worked with various organizations as well, such as Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots and local governmental agencies. The project brought to light the importance of the role everyone takes in caring for the environment, how negative effects can be avoided and positive results can be achieved through education, awareness, and involvement. One said school education grant totaled $3,500. Teens from the R-Spot program were made aware of community cleanup efforts and requested park personnel coordinate an event at the park. The event was held in July of 2021 with a total of 130 teens participating throughout 40 parks. Each park location included 2 dumpsters, and an incentive for the winner was a pizza party and ice cream social. It resulted in a full 2 dumpster for the 1 park is how they won. The goal was to educate teens and residents on illegal dumping, the effects on the environment, and bring awareness of the issues of illegal dumping. The event was successful, resulting in a need to bring education continue to be an important component of bringing awareness to all communities. In late December 2021, I reached out to the Department of Parks and Recreation to coordinate community cleanup events under the R-Spot program and invited the teams to host the event. The event will be hosted at various parks this Saturday, April 23rd, in celebration of Earth Day. Teens and volunteers will go out and remove debris through surrounding the parks, as well as educate residents about proper disposal, available resources, and the effects of illegal dumping on the environment. We are also partnering with the waste haulers to provide dumpsters for the event, who will drop off the dumpsters and then pick up the dumpsters with all the debris. Eradicating illegal dumping without any enforcement leads to more illegal dumping, often in the same locations. Due to competing priorities from law enforcement agencies and a lack of resources, illegal dumping is not prioritized for law enforcement or prosecution. Removal of illegal dumping is paid by franchise fees that are unsustainable to fund all resources necessary, including increased enforcement. Note that in our current no dumping sign design, we wanted to list not just the penalties, but also a resource for those who want to do the right thing. Thank you so much, Aaron, Supervisor Miley, and Alameda County for the opportunity for LA County to present on illegal dumping program and the R-Spot program. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Adriana. It's so great to learn more about that program. And I think that there is so much that can be replicated, not just throughout the state, but throughout the country and throughout the world as well from what you're doing. We really appreciate you highlighting that and bringing that to this stage today. As a reminder, Adriana is going to be hanging out in the Q&A feature down below for the next 15 minutes. So if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with Adriana, now is a perfect time to use that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We've also seen a lot of people using the chat feature, and of course, that's a wonderful way to engage with your fellow attendees. But just as a reminder, any questions that are posed in the chat may not actually get an answer just because it's moving too quickly for us to keep up. So please do use that Q&A feature as well. I'd now like to move us to our next presentation, which we're very excited to welcome Furniture Cycle, which addresses illegal dumping and furniture waste within a circular economy. So we're going to learn about some different solutions around deterring furniture waste. And to do that, I would like to welcome to the illegal dumping stage, Jamie Fasciola, who is an award-winning social entrepreneur who works in developing local solutions to the circular economy and that have been covered by BBC News, Fast Company, Nonprofit Quarterly, the Oakland Side, KQED, and Green Biz. Her current project, Furniture Cycle, is a solutions exploring furniture waste from the bottom up. She holds a master's in environmental science and management from the Bren School at UCSB. Jamie, welcome to the illegal dumping stage.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, let me get this right. I'm sorry. Oh, so sorry. One more time. Okay, let's do it this way. I'm so sorry.
No worries. We can see your presentation, Jamie.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's me who can't see it. Okay. I'm so sorry. You can see my presentation?
You can.
Okay, great. Sorry for the delay. And you can't see me. Okay.
And now we can. There we go.
Hi.
Welcome to
So
the stage.
sorry. Okay. I am unmuted and you can see my screen. Thank you so much, Supervisor Miley and Aaron and your team for having me here today. As Aaron mentioned, today I'm going to talk about connecting the dots between illegal dumping, furniture waste, and the circular economy. Okay, fantastic. My goal for this presentation is to inform perspectives and expand possibilities in order to shift the culture and policies that will govern the future of discarded furniture. To accomplish this goal, we're going to explore and examine how these different aspects of language, data, solutions, reuse, root causes, and the circular economy interact with each other in complicated ways through the lens of my hyperlocal project. I must acknowledge that I am covering a very narrow, specific slice of a very complex topic. This entire presentation is about discarded furniture in my neighborhood. And I know my neighborhood isn't representative of all neighborhoods, but I do believe some of these takeaways can be transferable everywhere. So who am I and what is this project? I am a concerned citizen and an Oakland resident who loves my city. I've lived in my same spot for over 10 years. It's a neighborhood called Temescal. It's up near the Berkeley border. And back in 2019, I started a personal project that documented all of the street furniture I saw in my neighborhood. It was a creative outlet rooted in bearing witness. I interrogated what I saw on social media, and I was leaning on my disparate background as a sustainability consultant with a background in corporate environmental management. As an amateur upholsterer who has worked as both a laborer and management in 2 different upholstery shops in Oakland, and as a social entrepreneur who ran a business called Repair Revolution that co-located independent repair shops. It is this unique perspective that allowed me to see past the furniture's imperfections to the potential, opportunity, and the impact these discarded pieces held. The way it worked was I went about my life, and when I saw a piece, I took its picture. I never tried to play matchmaker or pose them. The whole project was rooted in being a critical observer of what was happening all around me. In March 2020, I quantified the data I had collected over the previous 15 months that were all taken within 2 miles of my home. And what I found was astounding. I found over 50,000 pounds of furniture, half of which was seating, as you can see, and that was followed by storage. That would be things like desks, dressers, and bookshelves, and third place were tables, things like end tables, coffee tables, dining room tables. I found 592 pieces. That's 1 to 2 pieces every day of this project. While this was interesting, I didn't find it super useful. And so to make better sense of what I was finding, I graded each piece into 1 of 5 buckets: like new, imperfect yet functional, incomplete needs work, not usable as furniture, and unclear unknown. It was like hidden under something where I couldn't really see it. It was this analysis that really blew me away. As you can see, 54% was imperfect yet functional, and over 30% was incomplete needs work. So it was missing a cushion or a drawer, or it needed some sort of repair. The first 3 categories added together equal 89% that can be reused, but is currently falling through the cracks. It was this statistic that gave this project life. So exploring what is going on is the premise of this presentation. We know these materials didn't appear out of nowhere and land on the curb. We need to take a holistic look at the upstream and downstream systems at play that are bearing my neighborhood and unwanted, imperfect furniture. So let's start with language. When it comes to illegal dumping, some terms may spring to mind: waste, trash, junk, blight. While may be true, it's also incomplete. This language is reductive and harms our ability to see what is right in front of us. Most people may assume that everything on the street looks like what is on the left, something beyond repair. But my data says it's more likely to be like the one on the right, which is just perfectly imperfect. As we can see, these are 2 very different pieces of furniture, but we can't tell them apart when we use the same generic descriptors to describe both of them. Furniture waste data is pretty non-existent. The one and only fact people know about furniture waste is that Americans generate over 12 million tons, and that over 80% of it is landfilled. The rest is incinerated. It is the one statistic that is ever cited anywhere. So let's look at some adjacent data. In 2017, Oakland spent over $5 million to collect illegal dumping. Though we don't know what percentage of that was furniture, we do know it's an expensive problem. We also know that that number has likely skyrocketed since in 2020, service requests for illegal dumping were 3 times higher than average, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. And it's hard to know the size of the furniture waste stream because it's not counted in the Alameda County Waste Characterization Study. And waste management doesn't share what it collects during bulky waste pickups in Oakland. So you have no data, which leads to a lack of awareness, which contributes to inaccurate language, which can mischaracterize the problem. But with everything, without data, we can't set targets, goals, or even set a baseline to measure against for progress. Data does exist where the questions are asked and the answers are shared. A few reports out of the UK confirm that not all furniture waste is monolithic, and the high percentage of reusability means that there's so much room for improvement. This specific report from 2015 in the UK affirms my findings that there's still a lot of life left in our cast-off furniture. Solutions can create new challenges. So solutions that solve for a system predicated on everything being garbage can create new challenges when it turns out not to be true. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with a bulky waste pickup. In Oakland, it's a free service to all residents to help prevent illegal dumping and to keep the streets clean. In my neighborhood, however, the materials are not picked up, but pulverized, which instantly destroys any possibility of reuse, furnishing homes, job creation, or investing in our local economy. So here's another example. Our business as usual approach treats these two very different desks the same. As soon as they're on the curb, they receive the same disposal treatment, irrespective of their quality, condition, and material composition. This is problematic. Another challenge with our bulky waste pickup as a solution to prevent illegal dumping is our ECAP, which is Oakland's Equitable Climate Action Plan that was published in July 2020. This ambitious and progressive report developed a greenhouse gas emissions reduction target of 56% relative to 2005 levels by 2030. It is supported by Oakland's 2018 Climate Emergency and Just Transition Resolution. The actions are focused on, among other things, economic security, good green jobs, and resilient communities. It calls for robust support and investment in green jobs, local reuse and repair infrastructure, and a decrease in life cycle emissions, which commonly comes from extending a material's life, such as repairing and reusing a couch which could be used to furnish homes for people coming out of homelessness. To quote the ECAP is not just a plan to reduce emissions, it is also a plan for sustainable and equitable development. As we invest in local regenerative systems, an equitable approach can ensure that frontline communities benefit first and foremost through green job creation and new projects. The ECAP references the circular economy as a system in which nothing is wasted. All materials are repurposed and kept in use instead of being disposed. I quote, "Many circular solutions like repair, reuse, sharing, or cooperative production can build community resilience while helping everyone meet their needs with fewer overall resources." During my project in my neighborhood, the biggest reusers of furniture waste was the unhoused population. There was a large encampment at a park by my apartment, and I would witness this secondhand convoy transport street furniture that I had seen from blocks away. I interviewed the guy with the shopping cart. He called himself D. He told me he found these pieces over by the DMV, which I looked up later and realized it was 0.9 miles from where we were, and that he was grateful to bring them to his tent since they will make him feel a little more normal. He said he had lost 5 tents to rats. The other photo was from a different encampment past the park under the on-ramp to the 580. It's since been cleared away and blocked up. But if you can see the small sign on the chair in the image on the left, it reads 350 OBO, $350 or best offer. This proves that discarded furniture has value. It just depends on who you ask. It is imperative to look at some of the root causes to contextualize what is playing out on the street. Our systems reflect our values. We have fully invested in and bought into frictionless consumption technologies. We figured out how to have anything delivered to our homes in 24 hours with one click, yet we have not invested in any systems to refurbish, reuse, remake, and redistribute unwanted, imperfect furniture. Wish cycling is a term this audience may be familiar with. It originated in the recycling space, but I think curbed furniture in my neighborhood is furniture's version of it. And instead of it being a yogurt container that people hope and want to be recyclable, and so they put it in the recycling bin because it makes them feel good, though often it contaminates the whole lot and needs to be thrown away. But instead of it being a yogurt container, instead it's a chair or an imperfect couch or end table that, even though the owner of this piece of furniture doesn't want it anymore, but because there was still life left in it, they put it on the curb because they hope someone else is able to use it and that will make them feel better. But as we know, these good intentions have frustrating outcomes because furniture is highly perishable on the street, and a piece goes from having some value to no value quickly. Furthermore, people don't repair things they aren't going to keep, and they don't, won't, or can't gift, sell, or donate imperfect furniture. Used furniture is often imperfect because it's older, it has visible wear and tear, or it's just out of style. Everything needs an end market, and there are few to no options for outdated, imperfect furniture. Donation centers want only sellable pieces. The pieces need to be in style, in good condition, and typically small. Local shops I've talked to don't want overstuffed chairs or grandma's 300-pound solid oak hutch. San Francisco Goodwill said they make more money on clothes than furniture. Furniture takes up a lot of floor space. It's hard to sell and it's hard to move around. Let's zoom out and look at some larger trends. Furniture imports to the US have increased 5 times since the 1970s. Employment in manufacturing has sunk to less than 10% of the workforce. Spending on stuff increased 20 times in the last 50 years. Furniture waste has exploded 600% since 1960. Customer expectations for furniture and longevity is falling, dropping by half in 20 years. And in 2020, 95,000 more people were employed as refuse and recyclable material collectors than were employed as upholsterers. So what does all of this mean? It means spending is up, waste is up, longevity is down, and manufacturing skills are disappearing. We're so disconnected to our materials, labor, skills, the environment, and our stuff. It shows up not only in how we treat our things, but how we manage them at end of life. Therefore, I propose a regional furniture hub, a place to aggregate, triage, sort, refurbish, sell, distribute, recycle, donate, and discard. We need to build a model that can support both market demand and supply for furniture that isn't market ready. My project helped me realize this wasn't a waste crisis as we've been conditioned to think about one. The real crisis is our lack of infrastructure, investment, and imagination. In a circular economy, the downstream is the new upstream, and the downstream is in our front yards. In our climate-constrained world, we need to build systems that leverage the goods and materials that are already here, while investing in our local labor force to create the jobs, products, and businesses of tomorrow. A democratized circular economy is an invitation to the woodworkers, skilled laborers, upholsterers, and creatives that have been left out of the climate conversation for too long. These are green jobs and a path towards material resiliency. Furniture hubs could support and strengthen furniture banks, assist interior designers that want to source local and low impact, help cities reduce waste and emissions, create training pathways, incubate businesses, and provide a just transition for local laborers and others displaced by our disposable economy, just like the Oakland ECAP aspires to do. I believe unwanted, imperfect furniture can catalyze local transformational change, but only if we stop treating it like waste. Thank you so much. If anyone is interested, I've recently published these findings into a case study that is available for download on my website at thefurniturecycle.com. And here's some other ways to follow along. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, and an excellent presentation. You know, we had one question or maybe a comment come in. I'm hoping that you can answer it live with me here. It comes from Nicholas Jorgensen from Santa Clara County, California, who asks or really comments, hotels have been discarding brand new, unused, and gently used furniture at the dumps and transfer stations. This would be a good industry to market to receive the furniture for this program. So what are some of your thoughts about maybe the commercial partners who may be engaged in this circular economy, or maybe not engaged but should be?
Sure. You know, the commercial furniture space is definitely making some moves right now. There's a new startup, I believe she's based in San Francisco, and she's mostly focused on commercial office furniture, which has the same kind of history of, you know, when it's time for a refresh and offices move, it is very common that the furniture is disposed of. It's not necessarily resold and packaged, and those outlets to make that easy haven't previously existed. And so that organization is called Reseat. I don't know if she's involved in the hotel space, but I think that this is a burgeoning space that's attracting a lot of investment, a lot of excitement. And so I think these business models, we're only going to see more of them.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that there's so much improvement in this economy that could be done in this space. I recall at one of my previous jobs working in a nonprofit environment, you know, we didn't always have the kinds of resources that a bank or a hotel might have when it came to capital, but we had a lot of the same needs around being able to provide good, high quality furniture to our clients. And so we were actually able to work with some warehouses that would collect furniture from banks and places like that. And then we could then use them in our nonprofit space, and we get them at a deep discount, but these were still, you know, high quality, really solid pieces of furniture. And so I feel like there's so much that can be done in this space. It seems like you've identified some of that here through your research as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is a burgeoning area, and there's so many interesting components to it. And I think some of the interesting components include opportunities to really change how we talk about it, right? I mean, some of this low-hanging fruit, the market will take care of it. If you have existing commercial furniture that is made to last, right? It's very high quality. It is made for a 20+ year lifespan. The market will allow and correct for that. But I think once we start getting to some of these imperfect pieces, right, where there is no market, that's where that change is really going to have to take hold. And we're going to have to destigmatize labor and rethink how we're creating systems to grade and judge and dispose or not of what is all around us. So I think, yes, the low-hanging fruit is the stuff that holds its value. And then it just goes from there of how integrated we need to think about, or how integrated we can make furniture into our circular economy, you know, at a city level, at workforce development level, at a waste hauler contract level. I think it's really exciting.
Absolutely fantastic research, Jamie. Thank you so much for
Well,
bringing that to the second annual statewide conference on illegal dumping. I know that you're going to be down in the Q&A feature for the next 15 minutes or so, answering some of those questions that came in. I've been watching a couple come in, and so I'm excited to get those attendees some answers directly from you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing all of your knowledge. Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'd now like to move us to a break. This is just going to be a 5-minute break. So I know we've been going today for almost 2 hours so far. So this is an excellent time to grab a drink, grab a snack, use the restroom, do what you need to do to make sure that you're refreshed and ready for our final hour of the conference, because we have a real great selection of content coming up after this very short break. But for those of you who are sticking around, we have some polls today to just see how well you've been paying attention. So we'll do our first poll now. And that poll is, what did Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Kahan fund during her first year in legislation? We got a couple options here. Did she fund $1 million illegal dumping pilot project in Alameda and Contra Costa County, or a $1 million pilot project in Sacramento County? So we'll let those polls go ahead and go for the next maybe 5-10 seconds. But while we're doing that, I just want to remind everybody that this conference is being recorded. So if you missed one of our sessions earlier today, or if you aren't going to be able to attend maybe something tomorrow or something like that, all of that content will be made available online and will be sent to all of our registrations. Let's go ahead and close the poll and see how those results came in. Looks like 88% of you went with the $1 million for illegal dumping pilot projects in Alameda and Contra Costa County. And that is the correct answer. We were very excited and pleased to work with the Assemblymember through our illegal dumping projects in Alameda County, and also with our partners up in Contra Costa County. And we're very grateful for her. Do we have other polls that are going today? Let's go ahead and put one up on the screen. All right, our next one. What is an example of an education strategy? Community outreach, removing illegal dumping, or charging cases? We'll go ahead and let some people answer this. We're getting a lot of people engaging this. Over 100 people have answered so far. This is really great. Just give it maybe 10 more seconds to answer that question. And while we're due, just a little reminder that we've sent all of you who registered a list of cleanup events that will be happening throughout the state this Earth Day weekend. And we're encouraging all of you to go out and practice what you've learned during this conference on Earth Day weekend at one of those events. Let's go ahead and close the poll and see what those results are. 98% of you came in with community outreach as an example of an education strategy. Now there is a couple, little qualifying things here, right? If you're charging cases and then publicizing those cases, that could be considered a type of education. And if you're also educating people about how to remove illegal dumping properly, that could also be. But community outreach is very solidly an education strategy. Do we have a final poll for our audience today? Who is the director of the Beautification Council? Is that Henry Howard, Ken Houston, or William Stone? I know this is a little tricky one. We did hear from the Beautification Council earlier today. Go ahead and put in your votes. And while you're doing that, just a reminder that we are on social media with you today. So if you'd like to join with us on social media, we are broadcasting this conference live on Facebook. We are also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram using the hashtag IDCon22. You can see behind the scenes photos on there, images about what's coming up next, and keep the conversation going all day after the conference using that hashtag. Let's go ahead and close this down. All right, looks like the majority of you with 83% got the correct answer with Ken Houston, who is the director of the Beautification Council and presented to us a little bit earlier today about the local impacts of illegal dumping. Excellent. Well, we hope everyone has had a chance to grab a drink, grab a snack, use the restroom, and get situated because we are about to jump back into our conference content for the afternoon. We have two upcoming presentations, one presentation and one panel that I think you're all going to be very excited about. The first is going to be on the proper disposal of 1 pound propane cylinders. And I'm very excited to get in and learn a little bit more about that. And then following that, we're going to have our first panel discussion of the conference, which will be on case studies on mattress recycling. So Nate, good to see you. I'd like to welcome you to the illegal dumping stage. Nate has been with the California Product Stewardship Council since 2018 and serves as a special project manager focusing on statewide legislation and education, two very, very important topics. He oversees a number of the organization's various advocacy and educational projects related to the reduction of household hazardous waste, the promotion of producer responsibility, product green design, and designing end-of-life management. Nate, it's so good to have you here. It's so good to be working with the California Product Stewardship Council and to hear about this very exciting topic that's so important in our state. And I'm going to pass it over to you. Welcome, Nate.
Erin, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
I can. You're good to go.
Great. Well, special thanks to you, Erin, for and your team, of course, for pulling us together. This is such a wonderful conference, wonderful resource for so many across the state and even beyond. So also thank you for having me today to talk about the Refuel Your Fun and Save campaign. I know a number of you have heard of this before. We provided updates on this in the past. I wanted to provide you with a new update with some very interesting information on a specific case study for a national park in the state of California. And we're calling this specific presentation, No More Dumping. So we'll go ahead and get started. I always like to start my presentations with a brief overview of who California Product Stewardship Council is. I'm a special projects manager along with Joanne. Our executive director is Doug Coble. We've got two other employees, Cameron and Yalan, who are interns and associates. We're also supported by a board. We've got 4 on our executive board and a number of board members. Quite a diverse background on the board. We've got jurisdictions, we've got haulers, we've got a number of NGOs. We couldn't survive without them. We're very glad to have their leadership. You know, the California Product Stewardship Council has a mission of shifting the cost burden of problematic products from the shoulders of ratepayers in jurisdictions to the producers of the waste. And a lot of the support we get financially comes from our associates, cities, counties, JPAs, and districts, in addition to sponsors. So special thank you to each of those who help us keep our doors open and allow us to continue our public education and advocacy work. So on to the presentation, No More Dumping. We've learned over the years that the 1 pound propane cylinders, which I'm sure you've seen, probably a number of you go hiking, go backpacking, camping, and you probably take along on occasion your Coleman stove or your lantern, each of which attached to the 1 pound propane cylinders. They look similar to this. So those traditionally have been single-use cylinders, and for all intents and purposes, they are one of the very few propane cylinders that are produced in this country or outside that are single use. And it's really quite an anomaly. We've seen the 20 pound propane cylinders that of course are reusable. Those are the ones that you use on your grills. I'm going to focus on the 1 pound propane cylinders today because they really have become a problem over the years, and they're costing us as ratepayers, as taxpayers, an awful lot of money, and that number seems to be growing. So with Refuel Your Fun and Save, this campaign is all about encouraging consumer behavior change. It's about encouraging folks, educating folks so that they realize that single use isn't always the best option. It may be convenient, it may be inexpensive, but it's certainly not the best option for us in the long haul. And the reason why is because they're simply not reusable. It's quite a waste of resources. It produces a lot of trash, a lot of expensive to dispose products. And you can see here in this picture, we've got some of the parks across the state, these new propane cylinder recycling bins. So as you go to the park, as you go backpacking, as you go camping, and you use these single-use cylinders, you finally have a place to put them so that they can be properly disposed. Not every park has these, which means they typically go into the trash, which means they oftentimes find their way to the dump, which causes a lot of safety problems, both at the waste haulers facility and the dump, of course. You know, the problems are left and right. And we've seen, even though they're not themselves a significant fire hazard, we've heard stories about these things getting compressed at the waste haulers and causing small explosions that have caused some pretty significant damage, costly, expensive damage. So I wanted to share with you a quick snapshot of our Refuel Your Fun front page. We've got an awful lot of very useful information here about upcoming events and maps that you can use to find out where you can properly dispose of your single-use cylinders, in addition to buying reusables, which have been available for years now. If you haven't used one, you should definitely look into getting one. They function and look exactly like the single-use cylinders. This actually is a reusable, and you can see it's got the same attachment at the top. The inside engineering is a little bit different, which means they've got a different valve inside, which actually allows it to be reused. And you can see by holding it, it weighs a little bit more. It's made of thicker steel. It's meant to be reused many, many times. In fact, you can use it for up to 10 years, and it pays for itself after just 4 or 5 or 6 uses, depending on how you're getting yourself, how you're equipping yourself with a reusable cylinder. So again, back to the website, we also have places you can go to learn more about how to participate in some of the special events that we have. We also have a lot of media available for you as a jurisdiction or you as an NGO to use to promote the reusables. And of course, we have our contact information. So we are super excited about just the rapid growth of the reusables in our communities. Folks are learning about the importance of switching from single-use to reusable cylinders. And that certainly is the case in regards to the 1-pound propane cylinder. So when you go to the store, when you go to Ace Hardware now, when you go to larger retailers like REI, Sports Basement, you'll find in some cases the reusable sitting on the shelf, which is wonderful. And I encourage you to pick one of those up. So they're becoming widely available. And you can actually go to a U-Haul store now in many communities and pick up a reusable. They're filled, they're ready to be used. When you use them, you simply take them back, get them refilled, or purchase a new one for a friend and get yours refilled as well. So you can see here, they're typically located close to the cash wrap, so very easy to get to. Take a look at the picture on the right. You can see that we've got tables set up. We have events. So CPSC contracts with a number of jurisdictions across the state to educate the public about the Refuel Your Fun campaign and the importance of making that switch, that behavior change from the single-use to the reusable cylinders. So what we do is we host events like these where we educate the public. We talk about the importance of switching to reusables, how easy it is to get these things refilled or to actually swap them out through an exchange program that's becoming very popular across the state and across the nation. So if you're interested in having one of these, definitely let us know. We'd love to visit your community. We love educating the public, letting them know about these new reusable cylinders and how they can contribute to our solution of minimizing dumping. Here's an example of a couple different websites. We've got a private company called Little Camper, which now offers an exchange program for these reusable cylinders. So what I can do is I can go to the store. If that retailer participates in an exchange program, I would buy this and I'd take it home and I'd use it. And then I'd bring back the empty to the store where I bought it. And I would swap it out for a filled one. So I return the empty and I receive a filled one for a small fee. So this is very similar, nearly identical to what you currently do for your barbecue 20-pound propane cylinders, right? You use it, you take it back, you swap it out. It's super easy, very convenient, and it results in significantly less waste, a lot less dumping. And I wanted to show you these websites because Little Camper maintains its own map that shows where each of these exchange locations exist. And it's constantly being updated. This one's from about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm sure there are a number of additional ones available now. Refuel Your Fun also maintains a map that includes each and every one of the Little Camper locations, but it also includes refill locations, purchase locations, and then some. So you've got 2 great resources, 2 great maps that show you where you can go. And these numbers, these locations are growing by the week. So chances are, if you don't have one near you now, you will in the very near future. And the reusables, you know, they're not just for camping anymore. And we like to talk about this slide in particular because a lot of commercial applications exist. In fact, at Sierra Nevada Brewery up in Chico, they have a commercial kitchen and they go through dozens and dozens of these things every week or two. And they were consuming just vast numbers of single-use cylinders, and they found themselves with a lot of waste, and they weren't quite sure what to do to get rid of it. And they, for a while, were taking it to the Butte disposal facility, and they found out that it's costing that facility a lot of money to properly dispose of these cylinders. So they took a look at their options, and they realized they now have reusable options available. In this picture, you can see one of the manufacturers. Its name is Flame King. They sell these cylinders. This, in fact, is a Flame King cylinder. And all you got to do is find a way to refill it. Again, there are locations near you that refill these things, and that allows us to avoid dumping. So over the pandemic, we changed our approach to educating the public because we just couldn't have events like we used to on a very frequent and regular basis. So what we came up with was something called a reusable 1-pound propane pledge. And what we asked folks to do was to visit a local retailer that had these filled reusable cylinders in stock, and we asked them to take the pledge. And the pledge essentially is to create less waste, to save money by switching from the single-use cylinders to the reusables. You know, again, they pay for themselves after just 4 or 5 uses. And in taking the pledge, we gave them a free cylinder, and they loved it. And this allowed us to get a lot of reusable cylinders into local communities very quickly. And it allowed us to help support the refillers that were newly found and newly set up within those communities. So we're creating a little bit of an economy here. Instead of the cylinders being produced, the single-use cylinders being produced in states thousands of miles away and shipped over and over again, we're actually creating business relationships in our own communities by refilling them local, supporting the jobs, supporting the retailers, and minimizing our waste all at the same time. So if you have not taken the pledge, visit refuelyourfun.org and take that pledge, and I'll see what I can do about getting you a free cylinder. This next slide shows some of the ways that we've gotten the cylinders into the hands. You can see the QR code. This is a way that we got some cylinders, the reusables, into residents' hands within Yolo County. We use QR codes to direct folks to take simple surveys about their use of the single-use cylinders. We gather that information and provide it to Cal Recycle at the end of each of our grants, so that they can make better educated decisions about where the grant dollars should go. Okay, and here are a couple more pictures from some recent events. And you can see we've got some very healthy stock of reusable cylinders. So if you hear of one of these near you, definitely go check them out. Also during the pandemic, we found new and more interesting and innovative ways to get cylinders to people's hands. And it was actually by delivery. Because folks weren't willing to go out to a retailer during lockdown. We actually hand delivered cylinders to people's front porches, and then we let them know that it had arrived, and then they opened up their front door, and lo and behold, they've got a filled reusable cylinder available for them to start using immediately. And in many cases, they did. They took these camping, they took these national parks, state parks across California in an effort to get outside and enjoy the great outdoors. So we do a lot of public education. I'll talk about that down the road, but you can see here some samples of videos that we posted on social media and public education oriented posts about the reusable cylinders. I really want to get to the meat of the presentation, which is the cleanup case study for Yosemite National Park. You know, we've got a real issue at national parks, and it's a dumping issue. Folks go in, they take with them single-use products, and it's not just cylinders, it's oftentimes cylinders, and those happen to be one most expensive for the parks to properly dispose. But there are many other single-use products that are causing a lot of problems when it comes to dumping. And you can see in these pictures here, single-use cylinders for sale at many national parks. You can see some of the national parks have now propane canister drop-off bins. You know, they're not the best built, but they serve a purpose, and they get the job done. And you can see all these bins on the right-hand side, the upper right-hand corner. We've literally got thousands and thousands of these things being collected on an annual basis. And this is just within Yosemite National Park, and I'll share some specific numbers shortly with you. But you can see some of the dumping issues that we've got here. They gather these things, they start to rust, they start to leak. This is a real environmental issue. It's not just causing financial problems. It's not just an eyesore. It's not just adding to and compounding some of the other problems the parks are experiencing, but it's also an environmental issue. And you can see here, again, the solution, which is the reusables. So myself and Joanne at CPSC as well, we both participated in 2 unique collection and sorting events at Yosemite National Park. You can see some of the pictures that we took. So folks, they go in, they go backpacking, they camp, they use these single-use 1-pound propane cylinders, and they have no place to put them except for those bins. They oftentimes don't completely use these cylinders. So we find them when they arrive in these bins, they oftentimes have an awful lot of gas still left in the cylinder. So talk about wasted resources. This is a huge, huge deal. But they're also using the butane and other chemical cylinders here as well. We haven't quite come up with a proper solution on recycling for these, but we're working on it. But I wanted to share with you and give you really a better understanding of just the quantities involved. And this is just a portion of the cylinders that have been collected at Yosemite over 1 year. And you can see that we've organized these and counted these, and then we put them into these ginormous canvas bags, which are then hauled off to a disposal facility to be punctured. The gas is released, oftentimes captured, and then the seal is recycled. So there's a lot of effort, a lot of GHG goes into the distribution over and over again, and the collection over and over again. And think about the labor and the capital that's expended on collecting and disposing of these things. It's really significant.
Nate,
So I want to share with you here.
Sorry, Nate, I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
We're reaching time.
Yep.
And so if there's any last words that you'd like to say before we move on.
Absolutely. Just wanted to share this with you. Over the last year or so, they've collected almost 11,000 cylinders, costing over $22,000 worth of resources. So the solution truly is to encourage folks to switch from the single use to the reusables, and to visit local retailers and make sure that you're expressing your interest to these retailers, the importance of switching to reusables. So if you ever have any questions, if you want to learn more about this campaign, definitely reach out to me. I'm more than happy to chat with you. My email is actually nate@calpsc.org, and you can see my cell phone and office phone over here. Aaron and team, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the Refuel Your Fun and Save campaign. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nate. This was so enlightening as somebody who loves to enjoy the great outdoors that this great state provides. These are things that I see all the time out on hikes, out when I'm camping. And so to learn about reusables is just so exciting. I can't wait to employ that in my own adventures this summer. And so just want to thank you for that. I know you're going to be posting your contact information in the chat for anyone who's interested in following up. And then there were a whole bunch of questions coming in for you in the Q&A feature. Just a reminder to everyone, if you're posting your comments or questions specifically for our panelists, please make sure you're using that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We may miss them if they're just posted in the chat, so please do use that Q&A feature. And Nate, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'd now like to kick us off to our final panel of the day, but even though it's our final panel, after this we'll also be having our closing keynote speaker with the Alameda County Sheriff Greg Ahern. So stick around for that exciting message. But before we get to that closing keynote, I'm very excited that we're going to have a case series on illegal dumping mattress mitigation brought to us by the Mattress Recycling Council. This is going to focus on 3 different cities: Palmdale, San Jose, and Berkeley. And in order to facilitate this exciting conversation, I'd like to welcome Taylor Grimes, who serves as the Special Projects Coordinator with the Mattress Recycling Council, focusing on illegal dumping and environmental justice initiatives. Among other projects and programs, she oversees the illegally dumped mattress collection initiative, the illegal dumping mitigation efforts, stakeholder engagement, and pilot projects. Big job, Taylor, and welcome to the second annual statewide conference on illegal dumping. Over to you.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Erin. To get started, in 2021, the Mattress Recycling Council funded pilot projects in the cities of Berkeley, Palmdale, and San Jose to address illegal dumping of mattresses. Each panelist will present the background of their project, findings, and recommended solutions. The first presentation will be from the city of Palmdale. I would like to introduce Stephanie Mejia and Stephanie Autry, who are both management analysts handling the city's solid waste issues.
Hi, Taylor. Thank you. We're happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity to be part of the panel. I'm Stephanie Autry, and I will be presenting with Stephanie Mejia, and we'll go ahead and go over our illegally dumped mattress pilot study, which is still ongoing. The City of Palmdale's project was intended to address the issue of illegally dumped mattresses and illegal dumping in general, with a focus on multifamily housing complexes. Our goal was to educate and encourage residents and property managers to properly recycle and dispose of mattresses and other bulky items by developing and implementing a program that identifies strategies to address these issues and to promote change. This map shows all the locations of illegal dumping that occurred during 2021, which was a total of almost 1,700 locations, tied to just over 1,000 work orders, and which resulted in over 1,800 tons collected. The clusters that can be seen are concentrated around some of the city's more densely populated areas and indicate ongoing incidents of illegal dumping.
So as we mentioned in our previous slide, we noted incidents happening more often in densely populated areas. Our city's illegal dumping cleanup crew and code enforcement officers noted that multifamily units and surrounding areas are an ongoing area of concern with illegal dumping. For languages, we decided our outreach material to be made available in English and Spanish, as Palmdale residents reported speaking these the most on the US Census Bureau. Some of the strategies we used to foster change were to identify barriers, existing data review, community outreach, targeted outreach, implementation. We knew we wanted to have positive reinforcement messaging because it is proven to be a more successful strategy. And we decided to work with Action Research, who specializes in community-based social marketing. Working with Action Research, we were able to identify the barriers to the behavior of illegal dumping and developed a program around that.
To evaluate the effectiveness of our program, we have measured the strategies noted in the table on the slide. This includes the measurable item, the expected outcome, and the comparison of 2021 and 2022 data during the period of January through March. The only exception would be for the data for mattresses collected through local programs, which is the total for all of 2021 for our focus groups only. And so far, the item that has not met our expected outcome has been the number of illegally dumped mattresses collected by our crews in the field. However, we attribute that increase to improved reporting methods for our crews.
For our focus group, these 3 complexes were selected as our focus group after reaching out to 20 complexes that our waste hauler waste management identified and based on the recommendation from Action Research. So we have listed the total number of units for all 3 complexes. And as you can see, bulky item requests for group number 1 for the year of 2021 was only 7, for group number 2, 9, and for group number 3, only 1. We decided to conduct a survey to identify the barriers residents were facing, and results were used in determining what material would be created. We had a lot of setbacks with survey participation, and we had to come up with several plans. For survey results,
I want to highlight the one to the right. So the highest rated barriers related to bulky item disposal were: 1, not knowing how to arrange for pickup; 2, not having a vehicle to take items to a donation center; and 3, a perception that having bulky waste items picked up is expensive. Based off of these results, we needed to promote a variety of proper disposal options and address main barriers for proper disposal by increasing knowledge through clear communication.
So to accomplish the goals Stephanie mentioned, we decided to create a door hanger and a pre-move checklist as outreach materials. The door hangers would be distributed periodically to residents throughout the year to provide them with recycle and disposal information. The pre-move checklist is intended for residents who will be moving out and will be provided by the property manager to make that process easier. Both of these items include our campaign tagline and messaging, highlight the importance of proper disposal and available options, and provide links back to our new landing page. So speaking of the landing page, we identified that the city did not have a centralized page where residents could access information and resources for bulky item recycling and disposal. Therefore, we decided to create a landing page and include QR codes in our outreach materials to direct residents back to the page for useful information on keeping our community clean. We will continue to expand the page with programs that become available. Once our pilot is completed, we will make the outreach material available for everyone. Another item that we felt would bring citywide awareness to our program was a vehicle wrap. We wanted to use a wrap on our lightning loader to promote the landing page and campaign messaging because it is specifically used for illegal dumping cleanup efforts and can be seen in action daily around the city.
Total project cost was $33,452, and we distributed that amongst a consultant, an intern, a vehicle wrap, print material, and signs. For recommendations, these are recommendations based on challenges we encountered for campaign branding vehicle wrap. You want to be present where it will be beneficial to you. For example, we were going to go with "Junk Be Gone" as our tagline, but after discussing with the team, they thought it seemed like it was a junk away hauler. So we decided to go with "Junk Away the Right Way." Resident participation. Be prepared for the worst. In this case, we did not receive the residents' participation as we hoped for. So it is always good to have a plan B and even a plan C. Education. There's a lot of information out there from our hauler, from our own Pass City flyers, and even county flyers. And we wanted to make sure all information was accurate and available in one location. Property manager participation. Before we chose our focus group, we had a list of about 20 multifamily complexes that were identified by Waste Management. 14 out of the 20 managers said they were not interested. Even now, we are finding there is little to no communication between complex staff, which it makes it challenging to get materials out and really make this program be effective. That is all, and thank you. And here's our contact info, and we'll throw it back to Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie and Stephanie, for sharing. I'm excited to hear the final results at the conclusion of the project. The next presentation will be from the City of San Jose. We have Ed Ramirez and Olympia Williams here with us. Ed Ramirez is the Supervising Environmental Specialist with the City of San Jose's Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services Department. He helps manage Beautify SJ programs such as the Rapid, Removing and Preventing Illegal Dumping Team, Anti-Graffiti and Anti-Litter programs, Dumpster Day events, and supports creek cleanup efforts. Ed enjoys the opportunity to keep the city in which he was born and raised clean and beautiful. Olympia Williams is the division manager for the Beautify SJ program. Her efforts focus on leading programs that support neighborhood livability and quality of life for their residents. Olympia will be monitoring the Q&A feature on today's panel. And
Hi,
I will send
everyone.
it over to.
Yes, I will share my screen now. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Taylor. So we are very excited to be participating in the second annual statewide illegal dumping conference. We'd like to take this quick opportunity to thank Taylor Grimes and the folks at the Mattress Recycling Council. We'd like to thank Supervisor Nate Miley, Erin Armstrong for all the work that she does, and the Alameda County Illegal Dumping Task Force for giving us the opportunity to present this update on our illegally dumped mattress pilot study project that we are conducting with the Mattress Recycling Council. The primary purpose for this project was to decrease the number of illegally dumped mattresses in 4 hotspot locations within multifamily dwelling neighborhoods and to promote proper mattress recycling through junk pickup appointments and participation in Mattress Recycling Council take-back programs. To achieve this, we implemented a targeted outreach plan to increase awareness around the city's curbside junk pickup program and the MRC take-back programs for select San Jose multifamily dwellings located in the hotspot pilot areas. In this project, we will study the effectiveness of combining targeted outreach and the installation of cameras with license plate readers at these identified hotspot locations. A geospatial analysis of annual illegal dumping data for San Jose was used to identify the 4 multifamily dwelling locations based on their history of illegally dumped mattresses. Cameras and outreach will be used at these locations, and data will be collected over a 6-month time period from November 1st of 2021 through April 30th of 2022. This pilot study is still in progress. Very quickly, site number 1, we will not be applying any treatment, no camera, no outreach. Site number 2, no camera, but it will receive multilingual outreach. And site number 3, it'll receive 1 camera with no outreach. And site number 4 will receive both 1 camera and multilingual outreach. The multilingual outreach for these sites will be informing residents within a quarter-mile radius about the pilot study in the area, junk pickup, and take-back programs. We worked with the City of San Jose's Communications Division to create multilingual outreach material to educate neighbors around the hotspot locations on the mattress take-back programs and the City of San Jose's junk pickup program. Other languages used for these materials were Spanish and Vietnamese. The outreach materials call out the specific neighborhoods by name and contains a map of the pilot study areas. Images of common unwanted items are included in the outreach, as well as links providing information on retailer takeback, free mattress drop-off sites nearby, and for the San Jose 311 app or website to schedule an appointment using the City of San Jose's junk pickup program. We also received support from our communications division to create digital versions of the multilingual outreach to be posted on the Nextdoor app or website targeting neighborhoods of the hotspot locations designated to receive outreach in this pilot study. These digital pieces were posted from the City of San Jose's Park, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services account on Nextdoor. This was a great opportunity to receive immediate feedback from the residents as they comment on the post. Beautify San Jose staff installed self-powered video and license plate reader cameras at 2 of the identified sites for this pilot study. These cameras focus on areas within the public right-of-way and are monitored weekly for illegal dumping activity. Any activity observed will be recorded and forwarded over to our code enforcement inspectors for further review. In addition to monitoring cameras for activity, Beautify San Jose staff is gathering baseline data on illegally dumped mattresses, junk pickup appointments, and junk pickup appointments that include mattresses within these pilot study locations from the same time period during the previous 2 years to compare with the data gathered during this pilot study. Here are some of the observations that we have seen so far for each site during this study. At site number 1 that did not receive a camera or outreach, we saw an increase in illegal dumping and a decrease in junk pickup appointments. This could have been anticipated. Site number 2 did not receive a camera, but did receive multilingual outreach. We saw a decrease in illegal dumping to a number fewer than the junk pickups. So that could be good. Site number 3, received 1 camera, no outreach. We saw a decrease in illegal dumping while the junk pickup appointments stayed the same. At site number 4 that received 1 camera and the outreach, we saw a decrease in illegal dumping, but we also saw a decrease in junk pickup appointments. This is something that we'll have to look into further. Some of the observations that we've come up with during this study is that the baseline data from previous years had higher numbers of junk pickup appointments, including mattresses and illegal dumping, most likely impacted by the pandemic. During the pandemic, everybody was at home and we began to see the pandemic purge take place. We also observed the presence of cameras for this study seemed to reduce the number of illegal dumping incidents within 150 feet of the cameras. This is a significant reduction of illegal dumping in general near these cameras. We saw about 80% reduction of illegal dumping. Overall decrease in illegally dumped mattresses at sites where cameras and/or outreach was implemented during the study is something else we observed. And during the COVID-19 pandemics, folks were taking advantage of e-services provided through online apps and websites. A lot of purchasing made through Amazon, services rendered through DoorDash, Instacart, etc. Some of the recommendations that we've come up with during this study are the following. Outreach collateral should be scheduled for distribution on a quarterly basis at high volume illegal dumping multifamily dwelling neighborhoods. And this should be considered during or when establishing an operation budget. We see the need for additional cameras within these neighborhoods to increase enforcement activity. As Aaron mentioned earlier today, regarding the 3 E's, without enforcement, the bridge will collapse. We suggest work to establishing new or additional free drop-off locations for mattresses. For a city of our size, we've identified 3 locations, and we can see an opportunity to reach out to the MRC and to create drop-off events. We also see the need to improve convenience and scheduling proper disposal of mattresses using e-services on apps and websites. As I mentioned in our observation, more services are transitioning to these type of platforms. And just as we have added junk pickup appointment scheduling to our San Jose 311 app or website, perhaps we can add something related to proper mattress recycling or disposal for residents on this platform. These are just some of the observations and recommendations we have now while the pilot study is still taking place. And we hope to have a complete analysis of our findings within the next month or 2. We thank you for your time and feel free to reach out to myself and/or Olympia Williams for additional information related to this pilot study project and Beautify San Jose programs. I'll hand it back over to you, Taylor.
Thank you, Ed, for sharing, and to Olympia for being here as well. We're looking forward to reviewing the final results at the end of this month and in the next few months as the analysis is completed. The last presentation will be from the City of Berkeley. I would like to introduce Heidi Obermeit. Heidi has served as the City of Berkeley's Recycling Program Manager in the Department of Public Works Zero Waste Division since 2016. Her role is assisting the city in achieving its goal of zero waste. Thank you for being here today, Heidi.
Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it. Happy to be here and excited to present on the City of Berkeley's curbside mattress collection pilot program. All right, I will share my screen. All right, everyone, can you see that okay? All right. So illegal dumping of mattresses is a problem in Berkeley. We get around 1,200 to 1,700 mattresses illegally dumped in Berkeley per year. And we find that it's especially a problem during Cal student move out in the spring. So our goals for the pilot program were to reduce illegal dumping and then also to reduce the landfilling and increase recycling of mattresses. So we received a $100,000 grant from the Mattress Recycling Council to fund both staff time to pilot a curbside collection program and also 2 educational mailers to promote the program and other available recycling options. So brief overview of the program. So we piloted a dedicated curbside collection program for mattresses to make it easy and convenient for residents to properly recycle their mattresses. And as part of that, we stopped allowing mattresses to be placed in the regular refuse bulky item collection that's available for residents for free 1 time per year. That's specific for 1 to 4 unit properties. So we also expanded the eligibility for the program to 5 to 9 unit properties. And we did establish some quantity limits to make sure that it didn't exceed our operational capacity. So residents would call our 311 customer service line to request a pickup, and residents were told to place their mattresses curbside. And we told them to put them ideally in the parking strip, so in between the sidewalk and the street, and not to block the sidewalk. And you can see from the photo here that they attempted to do that. And so we also advised residents to place a sign on the mattresses so that their neighbors would know that they actually scheduled a collection and that they weren't illegally dumped mattresses. We did provide a template for residents that they could download from our website, but most people just hand wrote a sign and taped it to their mattress. And then our public works crews would pick up the mattresses curbside. We did provide a window, a 5-day window for pickup. And the only reason for that is just due to staffing shortages. We didn't have the staff to be able to dedicate a specific day just for mattresses because there's too much other work going on. So normally we would pick up the mattresses that day that the resident put it out there. But we did let them know that it could take up to 5 days for the pickup to happen and to not call in for a missed pickup until after that 5-day window. So in terms of outreach and education, we added a web page on our City of Berkeley website that was dedicated just for mattress recycling info. We sent out 2 educational mailers to residents living in 1 to 9 unit properties. And we did target outreach during Cal's student move out in the spring. So the first postcard, you can see the image here, that was sent out in April before commencement in May. And we also posted a news release to the Berkeley website, and that goes out to our listserv. And then we coordinated messaging with UC Berkeley staff and students, and also the Berkeley Property Owners Association. So the program results. We completed a little over 1,000 curbside pickups during the pilot program year, and we collected and recycled 1,334 mattresses. And you can see the collected mattresses, they're staged under our weather cover that's located at the Berkeley Transfer Station. And this cover was actually funded through a separate Mattress Recycling Council micro grant that we had received previously. So program costs, the total cost was around $129,000 for the year to implement the program. Most of that was staff time, so the collection for the drivers to actually go out and pick up the mattresses and bring them back to the transfer station. They averaged around 15 hours per week. Our customer service time is spent a little over 100 hours on the phone with customers, taking calls, making the pickup appointments. And then we spent time on the implementation of the program management. The outreach material cost about $15,000, mostly postage. And so if you look at the approximate cost per mattress, if you look at just the collection cost, the driver's transportation is about $57 a unit. If you look at collection and customer service time, about $63 a unit. If you incorporate everything, including the outreach material and rolling out the program, it's about $97 per unit. So the big question, did the program actually reduce the number of illegally dumped mattresses in Berkeley? And I think the answer is yes. We saw a 32% decrease of illegally dumped mattresses picked up by city crews during the pilot year compared to the prior year. So you can see the pilot year is at the bottom of the chart. There were 940 illegally dumped mattresses during that time, during the pilot year. The prior year, there were 1,372. And you can see that through the other years, it was definitely a decline as well. And then we also saw a decline in the number of mattresses that Caltrans picks up from Berkeley encampments and also along highways. And we also saw a 55% decrease of illegally dumped mattresses that are picked up by city crews during Cal move out in the pilot year compared to the prior year. So you can see at the bottom of the chart there, only 208 mattresses were illegally dumped during the pilot year, during the May to June student move out timeframe. That's compared to the prior year when there were 457 illegally dumped mattresses. So the lessons that we learned, one big one is just that 5-day pickup window is really problematic. It can lead to blight if mattresses are sitting out there for days. They tend to accumulate other mattresses or other illegally dumped items. We also got some customer complaints because mattresses were sitting out for too long. Sometimes they would fall over and block the sidewalk. We had a blind resident who called in a couple times because the sidewalk was blocked, so that was not great. So we switched to one designated mattress pickup day per week towards the end of the pilot, and that works way better. The other thing we learned is that mattresses can get really heavy if they're set out on rainy days. And especially for those foam mattresses, they get really sopping wet. So we added information to the website to reschedule if heavy rain is in the forecast. And this is the last slide. The initial staff concerns about residents requesting too many pickups, that was a concern. And we found that was not a problem. Most properties only requested one pickup, and most residents only placed out 1 or 2 mattresses. So we considered the program a success, and we're actually continuing it on an ongoing basis. And with that, I'll hand it back to Taylor.
Thank you so much, Heidi. Thanks for sharing with us today. Thank you to all the panelists and to the audience for attending today. MRC intends to produce detailed case studies based on the results of the projects, and we will share more in the coming months. As mentioned previously, a couple of the projects are still ongoing. So we will be moving into the Q&A feature for the next 15 minutes to answer any questions. And I will send it back to you, Erin.
Thanks so much, Taylor, and to all of your panelists who presented on this very important case series. It was so fascinating to learn how this issue was tackled in these different jurisdictions and what the results were. So thank you so much for bringing that together. I'd now like to move us over to Supervisor Nate Miley, who will be introducing our closing keynote speaker, Sheriff Ahern. Supervisor, over to you.
Yes, I might have to go off real fast because I'm at the Board of Supervisors meeting and I need to make remarks there. So I'm going to ask Aaron to introduce the sheriff on my behalf. But I just want to really thank Sheriff Greg Ahern for giving us closing remarks and also for his support in addressing illegal dumping. And I'm going to go back to the Board of Supervisors meeting so I can make remarks there at the same time. So thanks, Aaron, for handling this for me.
My pleasure, Supervisor. Always happy to help. And I know we've got a busy day with the supervisor, both hosting the start of our second annual statewide conference, as well as being in his official capacity as a board supervisor today. So we really appreciate him putting in that double duty today. I'd now like to welcome to the illegal dumping stage Alameda County Sheriff Greg Ahern, who has been an incredible partner locally in addressing illegal dumping. We partnered with the Sheriff's Department on the acid pilot, and honestly, we couldn't have done the work that we did without their support, whether it was doing in-person patrols, helping to block streets when we were doing cleanups and tree plantings. They were always there and always ready to help out. We know that enforcement is a huge element of those 3 E's, really can't tackle illegal dumping without it. And so we're very pleased to partner with the sheriff. on that front. Let's see, so I'll just read a brief introduction about the sheriff. Sheriff Ahern is the Region 2 coordinator in the Governor's Office of Emergency Services and is tasked with coordinating emergency regional response in 16 counties across California, from Monterey County all the way up to the Oregon border. He is this 22nd sheriff in Alameda County, and he took office in 2007 and oversees 1,650 employees on a budget of more than $550 million annually. The sheriff provides law enforcement services to the unincorporated areas of Alameda County, which serves a population of 150,000 county residents. The supervisor always likes to say that if the unincorporated area were its own city, it would be the 4th largest in the county, which is quite big. In addition, the sheriff contracts with police services with the city of Dublin, Oakland Airport, AC Transit, hospitals, and with social services. Sheriff Ahern, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the conference.
Aaron, thank you very much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can see.
Good, all right. So obviously law enforcement is involved in the task force because this is a criminal act. It's an initial crime of 374.3, which is illegal dumping of waste. And so many times it goes ignored in our communities. And these illegal dumpings occur in all areas of the county, whether it be urban, suburban, or our rural areas. In addition to the crime, the dump sites cause major concerns with public safety, and they also increase infestation of bugs, rats, and vermin that cause problems to the residents in and about the area of those illegal dump sites. So we have concerns about pollution in our waterways, as well as we heard from Ken Houston. The waterways are extremely at risk because of these sites. And I was very pleased to learn that people on the call today were concerned about encampments, because our encampments, we find a great number of stolen vehicles, abandoned vehicles. They have the propane that we learned about. They have furniture and mattresses that need to be added to our overfilled land waste. And they have shopping carts, as you all know. And so all this cleanup process is very expensive, and it adds to our already overused landfills. The furniture that you're talking about, we started a program to refurbish furniture as well. The furniture that would go to the landfills from like major universities or hotels or other places that are remodeling. We have that furniture picked up and delivered to the San Rita jail. Our inmates then get to refurbish it in their vocational training of being a carpenter. They then can provide that furniture back to places in the community that maybe are economically challenged and can't afford to have new furniture. We deliver to long-term care facilities, things like Section 8 housing, and even to the people that suffer from food insecurity. So the furniture is a big part of what we do as well to help in all aspects of community and public safety. The time and expense for law enforcement could be better utilized to address the other needed enforcement priorities in all the various communities. The cleanup and the abatement program adds to the overall public safety of our communities. So law enforcement likes to be involved in some of these events because we get to display our concern for the neighborhoods, and we get to have contact with the people that are being victimized by these illegal dumpings. And we have a positive interaction with those individuals, especially when we remove those abandoned vehicles that have been left in front of their neighborhoods for many months. We're also addressing the 5 main drivers of crime in our communities. Those 5 main drivers of crime are the environment, health, unemployment, poverty, and lack of education. So these illegal dumping sites, we can continue our efforts to reduce unemployment. We heard one of our presenters talk about employment opportunities. We can create employment to ease the stress of poverty in our neighborhoods. We can continue to prioritize our education needs, and we can work to improve the overall health of our citizens, and of course, increase the awareness of our own environment, from the waterways to the beautification of our cities to the cleanups. all the work that's been done by this task force. Law enforcement reaction to these sites needs to be very quick. So additional subjects do not tend to add to that existing problem. So the quicker we get to those sites, the sooner they're reported, the sooner Public Works can get there and clean it up. It will prevent additional dumpings from those same locations. So our efforts can have a positive effect on the community if we focus on the prevention, the enforcement, and the programs that you all provide, and the continual service to make sure they don't continue to be a problem at the same sites. We work to prevent any additional dumpings. In our area, we've identified 35 encampments for the homeless people that tend to get used on a regular basis. And as soon as we clean them up, we have to make sure we continue to go back so they don't reuse those places and continue on with the dump sites. We have an enforcement team that goes out on a regular basis to identify those locations, direct those people to other places. One of the places we're now using with a collaboration with the DA's office is a place called CARES, which provides transitional housing for those individuals, creating those problems for us. Our programs, we work on these sites to identify the offenders, and the abatement programs clean up the affected areas. We want to continue our service to those neighborhoods and patrols and communication so that they understand they can contact us and we can be responsive to their needs. And we heard earlier about education, how important education is to all of our people that are affected by these illegal dump sites. And again, the immediate removal of that debris goes to the service that those individuals need and deserve, who suffer from having to live around, work around, or be involved with those dump sites. So again, we want to thank Nate Miley and the Illegal Dumping Task Force. Also, thank you to all of you on the call and all of our partners that couldn't make it today, but assist us on a regular basis. The efforts of this task force indicate that a partnership is essential to address these problems that we have. No one entity alone can manage this by themselves, and working together has proven that together we can achieve more. The Alameda County Sheriff's Office has been a partner with Nate Miley for a number of cleanups in our area. With his leadership, we've also been able to work with our partners with the DA, various cities, private businesses, several nonprofits, and community members to address this illegal dumping problem. In Oakland, we've worked with the Alameda County Illegal Dumping, known as ACID, and we've also worked with members of the CURB in the unincorporated areas of the county. So we hope that each of you understand this is a call to action, and we'll educate all of Alameda County on the 3 E's that Aaron has stressed for education, eradication, and enforcement, that we continue to display, that we teach, train, and guide all of our members and others to utilize best practices to address the illegal dumping. All of the information that we've heard today will assist us in that goal. So please continue to be a great partner, and remember not to give up. Again, thank you for taking part of this. This is a big part of public safety, and it's very important to us in the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. And we know it's very important to Supervisor Nate Miley. So Nate, thank you for all of your efforts. I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sheriff. You have a few moments, just want to chat with you briefly here. So we couldn't do this work without the support of law enforcement and including the district attorney. So how critical do you feel it is for law enforcement to be engaged in this effort?
It's one of the things I keep on preaching. I preach prevention, enforcement programs, and service. And so illegal dumping hits all 4 of those main categories. Those 4 priority of enforcements and goals help us address those 5 drivers of crime. And so if we can reduce the crime in the area, we make it better living and quality of life for our members of this community. And illegal dumping is a huge problem. Those of us that are concerned about the environment, it is terrible to see what goes on with that rust and rain. We had rain today, so that's going to create rust on those items, and all that debris is going to end up in our bay. So we have to make sure we clean that up. Our landfills are already full. We've heard about how we can recycle the mattresses, recycle the furniture. All of those are at these dump sites, but if they're left out into the elements at these encampments that were addressed earlier, they can't be used. The wood becomes unusable. The mattresses get infected. The odor of mildew and mold cause hazard. So illegal dumping is a big problem, and we need to continue to stay on it, or else it'll continue to go on and affect those same areas over and over again.
And the thing is with the enforcement, I know with your deputies, they not only go out and enforce laws, but they'll actually go door to door and inform citizens of what's going on. And by doing that, they actually bring about a ray of hope to communities. Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. We are with you on G Street and Railroad, in the city of Oakland. The residents came out, were applauding us, shaking hands with the deputies, bringing them water and beverages so they wouldn't be overheated. People in your unincorporated area by the railroad tracks in the Ashland, Cherryland area, we've cleaned up a number of dump sites there. They come out and thank us. They want to be able to enjoy their backyard, and they can't do that with the smell, the odor, the debris. It's not pleasant. And when you clean it up, they get to enjoy their backyard.
So I just wanted to have the sheriff just talk a little bit about all of that, because as Aaron pointed out, the 3 E's, education, eradication, enforcement, if you take away any of one of those E's, the bridge collapses and we can't be effective. And a lot of people have issues with the enforcement E, but clearly enforcement can be all about education. It can be about eradication as well, but also enforcement allows for accountability. So I just want to thank the sheriff for his help with this and serving as a role model for other law enforcement agencies throughout our state. Thank you, Sheriff Ahern.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I'd like to do now is bring day 1 of our conference to a close. We've heard a lot of exciting information, number of really great presentations. I want to once again thank WM Waste Management for being our title sponsor. We're very thankful to have Waste Management WM as our title sponsor this year for the illegal dumping statewide conference, our 2nd annual conference. Also, I'd like to thank our education level sponsor, the Mattress Recycling Council, as well as East Bay Mud. I'd like to thank our eradication level sponsor, Alameda Sanitary District, and our enforcement sponsors, Georgia Lane Townhomes and Pepper Tree Village Apartments, i.e. Tom Silva. I'd also like to thank all of our community sponsors, Louisville Jefferson County Department of Public Works, the Illegal Dumping Technical Advisory Committee, and Forester. Additionally, the California Product Stewardship Council, Furniture Cycle, the National Stewardship Action Council, Hate Care, Castro Valley Sanitary District, the Product Stewardship Institute. I want to thank all of our sponsors, because once again, we couldn't do this conference without your support, and having sponsors just shows the breadth of concern and brings about the relevance to the issue of illegal dumping. Because once again, illegal dumping has no boundaries, and illegal dumping, as been pointed out today, affects the quality of life and the health of all of us. If not our physical health, it can affect our psychological health as well, and our environmental health. So let's get ready for day 2 of the illegal dumping conference tomorrow on eradication. And day 2, we've got a number of very good panels and speakers. We'll be addressing, eradication. You'll hear about the cost of illegal dumping, and you'll hear from, Caltrans with their Clean California initiatives, as well as a number of other good panel discussions on day 2 dealing with eradication. So please stay tuned for day 2. Encourage others to come to the conference for day 2 as well. And then don't forget day 3 of the enforcement day for this conference, where we'll hear from Attorney General Rob Bonta We'll also be hearing from the Vice Chair of the National Association of Counties. She'll be speaking as well. So once again, we want to talk about the 3 E's and their importance. You'll hear more about eradication tomorrow. Keep in mind that this is a teamwork. Teamwork basically is everyone together, everyone achieves more. And TEAM, it's just really important that we're all working together as a team on illegal dumping. And I think with that, I'm going to conclude today's conference. We thank everyone for attending. And once again, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact Aaron Armstrong and/or call my office. And we just really thank you all for your participation today. We had people from all over the state as well as from various places throughout the country. So thank you all and have a pleasant day.